You can build like the most incredible world-changing product. You can have this totally slick code base, a gorgeous user interface, and some revolutionary technology that just makes your competitors look like they're operating in the Stone Age.
Right, the whole build it and they will come fantasy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you don't have a reliable, systematic way to actually get customers, I mean, you don't really have a business. You basically just have a wildly expensive, incredibly stressful hobby.
It is honestly the single most brutal reality of the startup ecosystem. We have this tendency to romanticize the product
Oh,
visionary.
for sure. The lone genius coding in a garage.
Yeah, that exact trope. And we convince ourselves that if we just build something undeniably great, the world is just going to magically beat a path to our door. But the product is only half the equation, and frankly, it's often the easier half.
I feel this on a deeply personal level, to be honest. I mean, in my first venture, I spent months tweaking the onboarding flow, obsessing over like button colors, and just convincing myself that this was the work that mattered.
While actively ignoring the actual marketing, right?
Totally. I was doing everything I could to avoid figuring out how to get a single human being to actually visit the site. And I think that brings us to the core tension we're going to unpack in today's deep dive.
Yeah, pulling from Gabriel Weinberg and Justin Mayers's framework on distribution right from chapter 1 of Traction.
Right. We're looking at why so many truly innovative products just end up in the startup graveyard,
Yep.
while, seemingly average or even mediocre products completely dominate their markets. It all boils down to one single word, which is traction.
And we really need to define what that word actually means in this context because people use it constantly.
Yeah, the source material brings in Naval Ravikant's definition, which I just love. It's so stripped down. He defines traction as basically quantitative evidence of customer demand.
It's so clean. It cuts through all the vanity metrics. It's not, your friends telling you it's a cool idea at a dinner party.
Right, or a random spike in website traffic just because you posted a link on a forum once.
Exactly. It is measurable, repeatable proof that people want what you have. And usually that's in the form of dollars or, active retained usage.
But the bar for that quantitative evidence has to shift depending on the business model, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Like if you're building enterprise software with a massive price tag, your traction looks completely different than, say, a free consumer social app.
Oh, very different. I mean, if you're selling million-dollar B2B contracts, traction might literally just be 2 or 3 early adopter clients paying you for a pilot program.
Just 3 clients?
Yeah, because the lifetime value of those 3 clients proves the whole model. But, if you're building a free consumer app, you might need hundreds of thousands of daily active users before you can confidently say, yes, we have traction.
That makes sense. The absolute scale changes, but the underlying principle is exactly the same. You're proving that the engine actually turns over when you put the key in the ignition.
Right. And there's that Paul Graham philosophy mentioned in the source material, too. He says a startup is a company designed to grow fast. Growth is really the only essential thing.
So basically, a startup without traction is like a high-performance sports car sitting on cinder blocks in the driveway.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, you could have the 1,000 horsepower under the hood, but without tires gripping the pavement, you literally aren't moving an inch.
Exactly. The engine is your product, and the tires are your traction channels. And the relentless pursuit of finding which tires grip your specific road is basically what defines a startup.
But before we even get into the mechanics of those channels, and we have 19 of them to cover for you listening today, we have to talk about the psychological sabotage that happens in that garage.
Oh, the founder bias. It's a killer. Founders routinely kill their own companies before they even launch because of this.
It's so hard to admit, too. It's this tendency for founders to only pursue marketing channels they're already comfortable with, or the ones they just assume are, like, standard for their industry.
We see it constantly. Like a software engineer founder will immediately default to running Google Ads or, trying to optimize their SEO.
Because it feels like a technical problem, right? Like something they can solve from behind a keyboard.
Exactly. They are absolutely terrified of picking up the phone and doing direct sales, so they just pretend that channel doesn't exist. Or, on the flip side, a really charismatic founder will spend all their time networking at offline events and ignore the digital groundwork completely because they hate writing blog posts.
I have done exactly this, I'm not going to lie. But let me push back a bit, because if I'm building, say, a B2B SaaS product, shouldn't I just automatically build a direct sales team? I mean, everyone in enterprise B2B does direct sales. Why waste time testing something random like offline ads?
Well, think about it. If every single one of your competitors is building a massive direct sales team, that channel is going to be an absolute bloodbath.
Oh, let's see. Because it's saturated.
Yeah, it is incredibly noisy, and the cost to acquire a customer there goes through the roof because you're all bidding for the exact same attention. The buyers are just exhausted by cold calls and spam on LinkedIn.
So if you just do what everyone else does, you're essentially fighting a war of attrition. You're walking into the most crowded room and trying to shout louder than the billion-dollar incumbent.
Exactly. And what the text argues and what the data actually reveals is that the most promising traction channel for a startup is almost always one that the rest of the industry has completely dismissed.
Wait, really? The one they ignore is the best one.
Often, yes. If your competitors are ignoring, let's say, niche offline trade magazines, you might be able to acquire customers there for pennies on the dollar while your rivals are burning millions in a crowded sales channel.
So you're looking for the blue ocean, and the only way to find that blue ocean is to just drop your bias, admit that it's fundamentally impossible to predict what's going to work, and actually run tests.
Objective mathematical tests, which means you need to know what your options are.
Right, which brings us to the actual toolkit. We have 19 distinct traction channels to explore today. Let's group the first few into what we can call the digital groundwork, the organic, content-driven channels, starting with Channel 1, targeting niche blogs.
And to be clear, the strategy here isn't just blindly emailing huge publications like TechCrunch and hoping they write about you.
Right, it's way more targeted than that.
Exactly. It's about finding these highly specific, hyper-niche hubs where your exact target audience already hangs out. A masterclass in this is how Noah Kagan handled the pre-launch for Mint.
The personal finance app, right? He didn't just ask for a review, did he? I remember reading he practically integrated Mint into the fabric of those blogs before the app even existed.
Yeah, he was incredibly systematic about it. He identified a very specific tier of personal finance bloggers. He sponsored them, sure, but he also gave them these exclusive VIP access badges to put on their websites.
Oh, that's smart. It creates this artificial scarcity.
Totally. He wrote high-value guest posts for them and made the readers of those specific blogs feel like they were getting early access to a secret club.
And what were the numbers on that? It was massive, right?
Yeah, through that meticulous targeting, Mint acquired 40,000 registered users before they ever wrote their first line of public-facing code.
40,000 users before day one. That's wild. It just proves that if you can really map the psychology of a niche audience, you don't actually need a massive ad budget, which I guess transitions naturally into how you capture people who are actively looking for solutions, which is Channel 2, search engine optimization or SEO.
SEO is huge, but it's really misunderstood by early founders.
Well, yeah, because we all know SEO means trying to rank on Google. But isn't this basically a lost cause for a startup? Like the massive corporations have multi-million-dollar SEO budgets. How do you compete with that cheaply?
It is absolutely a lost cause if you go after what search marketers call fathead keywords.
Fathead keywords, meaning like broad terms.
Right. Like if you're a new accounting startup and you try to rank for the search term accounting software, you will fail. You are competing against Intuit and Oracle.
So what's the alternative?
The strategy for startups lies in the long tail of search. The text points to folks like Rand Fishkin from Moz and Patrick McKenzie with Appointment Reminder. They focused on highly specific, multi-word queries with much lower search volume.
But a much higher conversion intent.
Right, exactly. Instead of trying to get 10,000 visitors a month who just vaguely search for accounting software, you create content designed to rank for a highly specific query like how to format a 1099 invoice for a freelance graphic designer in California.
I mean, that might only get, what, 50 searches a month?
Maybe. But think about the psychology of the person typing that exact phrase into Google. They are in acute, immediate pain. They have a specific problem they need solved right this second.
And if your startup provides an article that perfectly answers that exact question, and then gently introduces your software as the solution,
your conversion rate on those 50 people will be astronomically higher than the broad, untargeted traffic. SEO at the startup stage is really about building a massive web of these hyper-specific, long-tail magnets.
which means you actually have to write the content. Bringing us to Channel 3, content marketing. And this isn't just throwing up a quick company update about a new hire, right?
No, not at all. It's using a company blog to build a durable media asset. Look at a company like Unbounce, for example. Rick Perro and his team, they actually launched their blog a full year before they had a working software product.
A full year. The anxiety of doing that as a founder must be wild. Like spending all your time writing articles instead of just building the product.
It definitely feels counterintuitive, but the math is just undeniable. They spent a year writing deeply researched, highly tactical articles about the exact marketing problems their future software was going to solve.
So by the time their software was finally ready to launch, they weren't just launching to crickets.
Exactly. They had a massive captive audience of thousands of marketers who already trusted them as thought leaders. They completely de-risked their launch.
The source text also mentions OkCupid doing something similar, right? Sam Yegin using their own data.
Yeah, OkCupid used their own internal user data to write these fascinating, deeply sociological blog posts about human dating behavior. The content was so compelling and, slightly controversial that it got shared endlessly across the internet. It functioned as an incredibly cheap user acquisition engine.
But, once you attract that traffic, whether through a long-tail search or a viral blog post, you have to actually capture the value. You can't just let them read it and bounce.
Right, which is where Channel 4 comes in.
Email marketing. And we really need to reframe this one because I think people hear email marketing and they immediately think of spammy retail newsletters offering 10% off.
Yeah, that's not what this is. Colin Niederkorn from Customer.io provides the best framework for this in the text. Email is literally the only channel where you own the direct line of communication to the user.
Cause an algorithm update on Google or Facebook can't take your email list away.
Precisely. And for a startup, email is used across the entire customer lifecycle. You use it to acquire the customer initially, sure, but more importantly, you use lifecycle emails to activate them.
Meaning like walking them through the aha moment of the product.
Yes. So if someone signs up for your SaaS tool and doesn't do anything for 48 hours, an automated email fires off offering a personal onboarding call or maybe a tutorial video specific to the industry they selected during sign-up.
It's a retention tool just as much as an acquisition tool.
Exactly. It guides them to success.
Okay, so to synthesize this first grouping for you listening, blogs, SEO, content, and email, these are really foundational. They require immense patience and consistency, but they create compounding digital assets.
They do. An evergreen long-tail blog post you write today might cost you $500 in time, but it could passively generate 3 customers a month for the next 4 years.
They're investments with a compounding yield. But as any founder knows, sometimes you don't have 4 years.
Sometimes you have 6 months of runway left.
Right. And you need to prove traction by next Tuesday, which means we need to look at how we can actively buy or earn immediate scale. So let's move into part 2. Paid and earned media. Channel 5 is search engine marketing, or CBEM, paying for ads on Google.
The contrast here with organic SEO is entirely about velocity. With CM, you put down your credit card, and within 5 minutes, you are the #1 result for your target keyword.
You're literally buying your way to the front of the line.
Yes. The classic case study here is Matthew Monahan at Inflection. He built archives.com. They relied almost entirely on a massive, highly optimized C strategy to grow the company, and eventually sold to Ancestry.com for $100 million.
$100 million exit built on search ads. That just implies they completely figured out the arbitrage, right? Like they knew exactly what a customer was worth to them, their lifetime value or LTV, and they found a way to buy those clicks at a customer acquisition cost, or CAC, that was lower than the LTV.
It really just becomes a pure math equation at that point. But, for an early stage startup, SEM is also the ultimate testing laboratory.
Wait, testing laboratory? How so?
You can run Google Ads for a product feature you haven't even built yet.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. You set up a landing page explaining this new feature, run $200 worth of ads to it, and see how many people actually click the Buy Now button. If nobody clicks, you just saved your engineering team 3 months of wasted work.
That is such a crucial takeaway for anyone listening. You are buying data, not just customers. Okay, Channel 6 is social and display ads. So Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, LinkedIn. How does the architecture of a social ad campaign differ from a Google search campaign?
It completely comes down to user intent versus user interruption.
Intent versus interruption.
Yeah, so when someone is on Google searching for CRM software, they have high intent. They are actively looking to buy a solution right now. But when someone is scrolling through Facebook or Instagram, they're looking at photos of their friends' dogs.
Right. They have zero intent to buy B2B software in that moment.
Exactly. So Nikhil Sethi from Adaptly points out that if you just put a buyer software ad in their feed, they'll scroll right past it. Social ads require an indirect response architecture.
What does that look like practically?
You use a Facebook ad to promote a highly valuable free piece of content like an ebook, a webinar, or a template. You use the ad to capture their email address.
Feeding back into channel 4.
Right. Then you use the email channel to nurture them over the next 3 weeks, building trust until they are finally ready to convert. Social ads are about feeding your funnel at the very top.
Okay, so that's renting space on someone else's platform. What if we want to, earn that space instead? Channel 7 is traditional publicity. Good old PR. Getting featured in major newspapers, magazines, or television.
The media landscape has completely inverted over the last decade, though. The old model was hiring a PR firm for $10,000 a month to blast press releases to editors at the New York Times, just hoping they'd bite.
But today, as Ryan Holiday and Jason Kincaid, who used to write for TechCrunch, point out, media filters up.
Yes. The New York Times reporters are way too busy to read your boring press release. They are actively scouring Reddit, Twitter, and niche industry blogs for story ideas.
So the modern PR strategy is actually to pitch a highly compelling, maybe even slightly controversial story to a smaller, accessible blog first.
Exactly. Because if that smaller blog posts it and it gets traction on social media, a mid-tier news site will aggregate it. And if the mid-tier site gets traffic, the major national outlets will pick it up. You engineer the cascade from the bottom up. But, and this is key, you have to give them a handle.
A handle? What do you mean by that?
A narrative hook that makes the story irresistible to share. Like, local startup launches new app is not a handle. Nobody cares. Local startup bans internal email to increase productivity, revenue triples. That is a handle. It sparks a debate.
I see. And if you can't find a natural handle in your day-to-day operations, well, you manufacture one, which is Channel 8, unconventional PR. Doing something so audacious or so incredibly generous that the media and the public just have no choice but to talk about you.
Richard Branson is obviously the godfather of the publicity stunt, right? Driving a tank down Fifth Avenue to launch Virgin Cola.
Classic.
But it doesn't have to be a multi-million-dollar stunt. Alexis Ohanian used unconventional PR brilliantly in the early days of Reddit and Hipmunk.
It can be as simple as extreme, totally unscalable customer appreciation, right?
Exactly. Sending a handwritten, personalized thank you note and a small physical gift to your first 500 customers. Nobody does that. It completely violates the expectation of how a tech company behaves.
And when a customer receives that, what do? They take a picture of it, they post it on Twitter, and suddenly you have hundreds of brand evangelists generating organic word of mouth that no PR firm could ever buy. I just love comparing these two sides of the coin. SEM and social ads are basically like renting a megaphone. You pay the tech giants a premium, and they let you shout at their audience for exactly as long as your budget holds out.
And the second your credit card declines, you disappear.
Right. But publicity and unconventional PR, that's like doing something so mesmerizing or so generous in the middle of the town square that the local news crew literally hands you their microphone for free.
It's a transaction versus a performance. If you master the performance, the ROI is mathematically infinite because the cost of distribution basically drops to zero.
Okay, let's shift gears to a scenario where you don't have the budget for ads, and maybe you don't have the creative spark for a massive PR stunt. How do you grow? You tap into an audience that someone else has already built.
Right, which brings us to part 3, partnerships and platforms.
Channel 9 is business development, or BD.
BD is essentially a B2B sales process, but instead of exchanging your product for their money, you are structuring a strategic partnership where exchanging value benefits both of your underlying metrics.
Like a classic win-win API integration.
Yeah, the quintessential example from the text is Paul English in the early days of kayak.com. They needed users, and AOL needed a better travel search experience for their massive portal.
So Kayak provided their superior back-end search technology to power AOL's travel section.
And in return, AOL funneled a massive immediate stream of their traffic back to Kayak. Chris Frelick ran a very similar playbook at half.com, securing partnerships that drove so much growth they were acquired by eBay for $350 million.
You essentially find a partner who has your audience, but lacks your technology. Now, a variation of this, which shifts the risk profile entirely, is Channel 10, affiliate programs. This is where you leverage a decentralized army of marketers and pay them a commission for every customer they bring you.
HostGator and GoDaddy built absolute empires on this model, and for a bootstrap startup, the financial mechanics of an affiliate program are just beautiful because it completely de-risks your customer acquisition cost.
Because you only pay for performance, right?
Right. With a Facebook ad, you pay for 1,000 impressions, and you might get literally 0 sales. You eat that cost. But with an affiliate program, you tell a network of bloggers, influencers, and media buyers like, Christopher Jones from Pepper Jam or Manesh Sethi. You say, I will pay you $50 for every paying customer you deliver. You only pay that $50 after the customer's credit card clears on your site.
You are totally outsourcing your marketing risk. As long as the LTV of that customer is significantly higher than the $50 commission, you've built a money printing machine.
Exactly.
Which brings us to channel 11, and I'm going to warn you, I have a massive problem with this one.
Oh, boy.
Existing platforms. The strategy of building your entire growth engine on top of a mega platform like the Apple App Store, the Chrome Web Store, or the Facebook algorithm.
Well, Alex Pachikov from Evernote is the prime example here in the book. Evernote's entire early strategy was to just be the best, most featured app on every single new device the moment it launched.
Right.
When Apple launched the iPad, Evernote was ready on day one. Apple, who was desperate to show off what the iPad could do, featured Evernote heavily. That intense focus on the App Store generated millions of users for them.
Okay, here's my pushback. We all remember Zynga, right? They built a multi-billion-dollar gaming empire, Farmville, and all of that, entirely on the back of the Facebook newsfeed.
Oh, yes, the Facebook golden age.
They were the fastest-growing company on Earth. And then one day, Facebook decided they didn't like game spam in the feed anymore. They tweaked the algorithm, and Zynga's distribution was obliterated overnight. So isn't building your startup on an existing platform the equivalent of building a beautiful mansion on rented land where a mercurial landlord can just evict you without notice?
Your skepticism is completely justified, and the Zynga cautionary tale is very real. It is absolutely building on rented land. But, and this is the key, you have to look at the risk profile of an early-stage startup.
Okay, go on.
If you are at stage 0, with 0 users and 0 revenue, your most existential risk is not that Apple or Google might change their algorithm in 3 years. Your most existential risk is that you run out of money and die in obscurity next month.
Ah, so it's a calculated gamble on immediate survival.
Exactly. It is a phenomenal launchpad, but a terrible permanent foundation. Leveraging an existing platform gives you frictionless access to hundreds of millions of users today.
You take the risk, you siphon off as many of those users as you possibly can.
And then, and this is the crucial part that Zynga failed to do quickly enough, you actively work to transition those users into your own ecosystem. You capture the emails, you build direct billing relationships, you diversify your other channels, but you use the platform's momentum to get out of the atmosphere first.
Fair enough. I mean, you can't worry about the landlord changing the locks if you haven't even signed a lease yet.
Well put.
Let's step completely out of the digital ecosystem for a second. In a world utterly obsessed with screens and digital metrics, we tend to forget that humans actually exist in physical space. Part 4 of the channel breakdown is the offline world. Channel 12 is offline ads.
Right. We're talking about television, radio, direct mail, billboards, and transit ads. And the immediate reaction of almost every modern tech founder is to dismiss this as antiquated, unmeasurable dinosaur marketing.
Because I can't put a tracking pixel on a billboard on I-95.
Exactly. But Jason Cohen from WP Engine makes a brilliant contrarian argument for this in the text. First, offline ads allow you to reach demographics that are incredibly difficult to target digitally.
Like who?
If you are building a product for senior citizens or local commuters, a targeted radio spot is going to outperform a Twitter ad every single time.
And I guess it goes back to the founder bias we talked about earlier, the blue ocean.
That is the most powerful aspect because every other sauce founder in your space thinks direct mail is beneath them. Their direct mail channel is empty. The digital ad space is a hyperinflated bidding war. Meanwhile, you can buy a highly targeted list of industry executives and send them a beautifully crafted physical package for a fraction of the cost of acquiring them on LinkedIn.
And if it works, you have a channel with 0 competitors.
0.
And speaking of occupying physical space, Channel 13 is trade shows, industry-specific showcases. The source material highlights Brian Riley from SureStop, a startup that created an innovative braking system for bicycles.
This perfectly illustrates the serendipity of the physical world. Trade shows force you into a concentrated environment with your buyers, your competitors, and the industry press all under one roof.
So Riley went to one major bike industry trade show. Instead of blasting emails, he physically met the decision makers at Jameis, one of the massive bicycle manufacturers. He learned their exact technical specifications over a conversation, went back, built the product to match those exact specs, and secured a partnership that resulted in 20,000 brake sales.
From one trade show.
You cannot replicate that kind of high-stakes, nuanced human negotiation via a Zoom call or a cold email sequence.
You really can't. The trust built in person accelerates the sales cycle exponentially, which naturally leads to Channel 14, offline events. And this isn't just buying a booth at someone else's massive trade show. This is actively organizing your own events.
Whether it's a 20-person local meetup or a massive industry conference, the book mentions Rob Walling in his conference, MicroConf, as sort of the gold standard here.
Yeah, by organizing the event, you completely control the narrative. You aren't just a vendor in a crowded hall. You are the architect of the community.
Hosting offline events fosters this tribal loyalty among your early adopters, doesn't it?
Exactly. They meet each other, they share strategies, and they inextricably link that immense value back to your brand. They stop being just users and start being evangelists.
And if you don't have the logistical bandwidth to host your own event, which, let's face it, is exhausting, you utilize Channel 15, speaking engagements, getting yourself on stage. Eric Ries uses masterfully to launch the lean startup movement, just speaking anywhere that would have him until it hit the bestseller list.
And Dan Martell of Clarity used it to constantly elevate his startup's profile. Think about the psychology here. When you are on a stage, you are immediately granted the authority of an expert. You have a captive audience for 45 minutes.
If you can deliver a compelling vision, educate the audience on a core problem, and subtly position your product as the inevitable solution, you will drive a wave of highly qualified, high-trust traffic the second you walk off that stage.
It's incredible for thought leadership.
Which brings us to the most fundamental, direct human channel in the history of commerce. Channel 16, sales.
The literal, direct exchange of your product for their dollars via human conversation.
And again, we hit the tech founder bias. But for complex B2B products or high-ticket items, a self-serve digital checkout simply will not work. A corporation is not going to swipe a credit card for a $50,000 software suite without talking to a human being.
No, never. David Skok from Matrix Partners outlines the mechanics of this in the text. The key here is that sales is not just buying a phone book and smiling and dialing, hoping someone says yes.
Right. It is an engineered process.
It is a rigorously structured pipeline. You have to generate the leads, usually through the other channels we've discussed. And then you qualify them. Do they actually have the authority to make the purchase, and do they have the budget? And then you have the structured conversation.
The text references frameworks like spin selling.
Yes. Situation, problem, implication, need, payoff.
Break that down for us real quick.
So you don't jump on the phone and talk about your features. Nobody cares about your features. You ask questions to understand their situation. Then you identify their core problem. And here is the magic of the implication stage. You ask questions that force the prospect to verbalize the actual financial or emotional cost of that problem.
Like, how much revenue are you losing every month because your current system crashes?
Exactly. You make the pain tangible. Once they articulate the massive cost of their pain, you offer the need payoff. Your product is no longer a $50,000 expense. It is a cheap solution to a $200,000 problem. That is the psychology of scalable sales.
We are entering the final stretch for you listening, part 5 of our breakdown. We've talked about marketing, we've talked about human sales, but sometimes the most devastatingly effective growth lever isn't a campaign or a charismatic salesperson at all. It's the code itself. The product is the marketing.
This entire category is often referred to as product-led growth. And the absolute holy grail of this category is Channel 17, viral marketing.
I really want to dig deep into the math here because people throw around the word viral to mean like a funny tweet that got a lot of likes. But in growth mechanics, virality is a highly specific mathematical equation.
It's pure math. The text looks at Ashish Kundra of MyZamana, which was a social network that grew from 100,000 users to over 4 million users in less than a year.
How does that actual mechanical math work?
It relies on 2 core metrics, the viral coefficient, often called the K-factor, and the viral cycle time. The viral coefficient measures how many new activated users every existing user brings into the system.
So if I invite 10 friends and one of them signs up, my coefficient is 0.1.
Right. And if your average across all users is 0.1, you do not have virality. You just have a nice little referral bump. True exponential virality requires a coefficient greater than 1.0.
So every user brings in more than one user.
Yes. If every new user, on average, successfully brings in 1.2 new users, the curve goes parabolic. The product literally grows itself.
And the second metric, the cycle time.
That dictates the speed of the explosion. If your coefficient is 1.2, but it takes a user 6 months before they finally invite a friend, your growth is steady but slow. But if it takes them 6 minutes, because inviting their contact list is a required frictionless step during the initial onboarding process, that is how you go from 100K to 4 million in under a year.
Viral marketing is not an accident. You have to systematically engineer referral mechanisms, shared workspaces, and social incentives directly into the core loop of the product experience.
Yeah,
You make the product inherently broken or less valuable unless you invite other people to use it with you.
exactly. It's built in.
I love that. Now, Channel 18 is one of my personal favorites because it's such a massive flex. Engineering as marketing. This is deploying your incredibly expensive developer resources not to build the core product, but to build completely free standalone tools that acquire customers.
Dharmesh Shah at HubSpot is the absolute master of this playbook. HubSpot sold inbound marketing software. But instead of just buying millions of dollars in Google Ads for the keyword inbound marketing, Dharmesh had his engineers build a free web tool called the Marketing Grader.
The mechanics of this are brilliant. You go to the site, plug in your company's URL, and it runs an automated audit of your website's SEO, mobile responsiveness, and social media presence, and gives you a grade from 1 to 100.
It provides extreme, immediate, and free value to the user. But look at it from HubSpot's perspective. In order to get the report, you have to put in your email address. So HubSpot is capturing the lead.
And the report itself acts as the ultimate sales pitch.
Yes. It systematically highlights every single thing that is broken with a prospect's marketing strategy, which just happens to be exactly the problems that HubSpot's paid software fixes.
It's an automated, highly personalized diagnostic tool that tees up the sale perfectly. And unlike an ad campaign on Facebook that stops generating leads the exact second you stop paying the daily budget, the Marketing Grader tool sits on the internet forever, passively generating tens of thousands of highly qualified leads for years. It is a true compounding asset.
Which brings us to our final channel, number 19. And this might be the most durable moat a business can build: community building. This goes far beyond having a Facebook group or a subreddit. This is architecting a platform where the community itself generates the core value of the product.
The source material points to Wikipedia and Stack Exchange. Jeff Atwood founded Stack Exchange, which is basically the largest repository of programming knowledge in human history.
But Atwood and his team didn't write those answers. They built a platform with an incredibly nuanced reputation system, gamified points, badges, and moderation privileges that incentivized a community of developers to answer each other's questions for free.
If you can successfully foster a true community around your product, your customers transform. They become your outsourced customer support, answering questions for new users. They become your most viciously loyal marketers. And they become your product development team, telling you exactly what features to build next.
And when a user has invested their own time and reputation into your community, they do not churn just because a competitor offers a slightly cheaper monthly plan. The switching cost becomes emotional, not just financial.
It is the ultimate defense against commoditization. Well, we have covered a staggering amount of ground here. From the digital groundwork of SEO and content, to the rented megaphones of paid ads, the serendipity of trade shows, the psychology of enterprise sales, and the mathematical beauty of viral loops.
All 19 channels.
Yeah, 19 distinct channels. If we synthesize all of this, if we zoom out and look at this entire landscape, what is the foundational takeaway from this chapter?
The singular unifying insight is this: achieving explosive customer growth is not a dark art. It is not some mystical lottery reserved for a lucky few who happen to go viral by accident. It is a highly systematic, objective, and scientific exploration of these 19 distinct pathways.
By actively acknowledging and fighting your own founder biases.
Exactly. By having the discipline to test broadly across channels you might initially loathe, and by respecting the cold, hard math over your own intuition, you will find the exact right lever to pull for your specific business at this specific time.
It's a science, not magic. There's a channel out there that will work for you. You just have to methodically uncover it.
The product gets you to the starting line, but mastering distribution is how you actually run the race.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? I want to leave you with a deeply practical, somewhat uncomfortable exercise to mull over as you go about the rest of your day. Look back mentally across the 19 channels we just dissected. I want you to identify the one single channel that made you internally cringe.
The one you instinctively shuddered at.
Yeah. Maybe you are a highly technical founder who thinks direct mail and offline billboards are archaic and beneath you. Or maybe you run a local physical business and you've convinced yourself that long-tail SEO is just too complicated for your industry.
That discomfort is a massive flashing beacon. That is exactly where you need to look first.
Ask yourself this. Is your own personal bias, your comfort zone, actively blinding you to what could be your company's most explosive growth opportunity? And is it possible that this channel is a wide-open blue ocean precisely because all of your competitors are too scared or too biased to use it either? Are you letting your high-performance sports car rot in the driveway just because you're too stubborn to bolt on the right tires?
It is a critical audit every founder must do. Because once you identify the channels you need to test, the next massive hurdle is execution.
And that is exactly where we're heading next. Now that we have mapped the terrain of the 19 channels, the next fundamental question is how to actually test them objectively, rapidly, and mathematically without burning through your entire runway in the process. Which is exactly what we will uncover in our next deep dive as we explore traction thinking and the mechanics of the bullseye framework. Until then, step outside your comfort zone and keep testing. Imagine you spend like a whole year building the absolute perfect product.
Yeah.
I mean, your friends love it, the early users are obsessed, the code is totally flawless.
Right, the design is beautiful. You've basically sacrificed all your weekends for it.
Yeah, exactly. You've drained your savings, you've poured your entire soul into this thing, but then you finally launch to the world and nothing happens. Just crickets.
Which is pretty much every founder's worst nightmare.
It really is. You sit there refreshing your analytics dashboard thinking, the tracking code must be broken. But it's not. The traffic just literally isn't there. And why? Because you fell into the ultimate founder's trap.
And, it's a trap that catches some of the smartest, most capable people out there. It's not just a rookie mistake.
No, not at all.
To put it bluntly, we have to look at this heavy truth bomb from Mark Andreessen. So he's the co-founder of Netscape and obviously a legendary venture capitalist. He's seen thousands of pitches.
Oh, at least probably tens of thousands.
Right. And he points out that the number one reason investors pass on entrepreneurs' people they would otherwise really love to back it isn't because they have a bad product.
The product is usually pretty great, right?
Exactly. The product is great. The reason they pass is because those founders focus on the product to the absolute exclusion of distribution. They just completely ignore how they're going to get it into people's hands.
They insist they don't even need a distribution strategy. Or, worse, they just throw around some meaningless buzzwords.
Yeah, they call their total lack of a plan a viral marketing strategy.
Right. Because they assume the product is just so incredible that it will magically sell itself.
Which, spoiler alert, it almost never does.
So today, we are diving into Chapter 2 of our source material, which is titled Traction Thinking. And this comes from Gabriel Weinberg and Justin Mares.
The guys who literally wrote the book on solving this exact problem.
Exactly. And in their work, they completely upend the traditional Silicon Valley playbook. So our mission for you in this deep dive is simple. We are going to totally rewire how you think about building a business or honestly launching any kind of project.
Yeah, this applies to anything where you need an audience.
For sure. You're going to learn why your product and your marketing must be built simultaneously. We'll cover how to define goals that actually move the needle and how to read the secret signals of customer demand.
It really is the ultimate shortcut to avoiding the startup graveyard.
I mean, it's a mandatory rewiring of your brain. Because think about it, the natural inclination of any builder, any creator or engineer is to just put their head down and make the thing.
It feels safe in the workshop. You have total control over the code or the prototype. But this framework introduces a core thesis that just shatters that instinct.
And they call it the 50% rule.
Right, the 50% rule. And the rule dictates that entrepreneurs must spend exactly 50% of their time on product development and 50% of their time on gaining traction.
And they have to do this entirely in parallel, right,
Yeah.
from day one.
From day one, you do not wait until the product is finished.
Okay, hold on. I have to push back here on behalf of anyone listening who's currently, in the trenches building something. Let's look at the history of legendary products.
I feel a Steve Jobs reference coming.
You know it. Steve Jobs famously said that customers don't know what they want until we show it to them. I mean, Apple didn't build the iPhone by spending 50% of their time running, Facebook ads to a landing page to see if people wanted a glass rectangle.
No, they definitely didn't do that.
Right. They locked themselves in a room for years, perfected the product in a total vacuum, and then just unveiled it. So if I'm a solo founder, dividing my limited hours straight down the middle mathematically means my product is going to take twice as long to build.
That's the logical conclusion. Yeah.
So doesn't this 50% rule fundamentally hurt my chances of getting a truly great visionary product to market? I feel like it just slows you down.
So that is honestly the most common objection. And you bring up the exact archetype everyone uses to justify staying in the workshop, the whole Steve Jobs myth.
It's a compelling myth.
It is, but we have to separate survivorship bias from statistically viable business strategies. First off, Apple had virtually unlimited capital when they built the iPhone.
And an existing global distribution network.
Exactly. You, sitting in your garage, likely do not have billions of dollars in retail stores in every major city. Second, relying on the visionary genius model is essentially buying a lottery ticket.
Because for every Steve Jobs,
Right. For every Steve Jobs who perfectly guesses what the market wants in a vacuum, there are like 10,000 brilliant engineers who spent 2 years building a product nobody asked for.
and they all went completely bankrupt.
Every single one of them. So you're looking at the exception and treating it like the rule.
Okay, so you're saying the risk of building the wrong thing entirely outweighs the risk of building the right thing slowly.
Precisely. Doing traction and product development in parallel might slow down your actual coding or manufacturing in the short run, but it drastically speeds up the time it takes to get a successful product to market.
Because it de-risks the entire venture.
It does. And to visualize why this is so critical, the authors use this absolutely brilliant analogy. They call it the leaky bucket.
Oh, I always appreciate a good analogy. Break down the mechanics of this bucket for me.
Sure. So think of your brand new product in its absolute earliest iteration as a bucket. Because it is totally new, it is inherently full of holes.
It's just a leaky mess.
Exactly. It's not yet a full solution to the customer's needs. The user interface might be clunky, the onboarding is confusing. It's just not sticky yet.
Okay, so I have a bucket full of holes. Now, the traditional instinct, the one I just defended, is to wait.
Right. You keep the bucket hidden in the garage. You're in there soldering and patching every microscopic hole you can find, trying to make it, quote unquote, perfect.
But the problem there is that I'm just guessing where the holes are.
You're totally guessing. And if you wait until launch day to finally pour water into it, water being your customers in this analogy, you are going to discover all these massive structural leaks.
And by then, I have no money or time left to actually fix them. I've blown my budget on the launch.
Exactly. But it gets worse because the water we usually pour in first during those early days, the beta testing phase, it's actually the wrong kind of water.
Wait, what do you mean, what's the wrong kind of water? We usually send the link to our friends, our family, our former coworkers, right?
Yeah, and that's warm water. They are way too close to you. When your friends interact with your leaky bucket, they unconsciously plug the holes with their own goodwill.
Oh, that makes so much sense, because they know you worked hard on it.
Right. So when the app crashes or the checkout process makes absolutely no sense, they forgive it, they figure it out behind the scenes, they tell you what you want to hear.
Oh, it looks great, man. Keep going. Meanwhile, the app is literally unusable.
Yes. So what you actually need to find the real leaks is a slow, steady stream of cold water.
Meaning cold customers, like complete strangers.
Complete strangers. You need cold customers pouring into that bucket from day one, because cold customers do not care about your feelings.
They don't care about your late nights or your grand vision.
Not even a little bit. They are entirely selfish, which is exactly what you want. They will tell you exactly where the leaks are by simply flowing right out of them.
So if the messaging on your landing page is confusing, they just bounce.
They bounce. If the pricing is too high, they close the tab. If the core feature doesn't solve their immediate problem, they uninstall the app and never come back.
And that rejection is the most valuable data your company will ever collect.
It is the only data that matters at that stage. They show you exactly where the experience is broken and what features are actually missing.
You know, this really shifts the entire paradigm of what marketing actually is in those early days.
How so?
Well, normally you think of marketing as this tool to acquire lifetime customers. But at this stage, you aren't doing that. You are essentially using your marketing tests to do your product research.
That's a great way to put it.
So the money or the time you spend acquiring a cold customer who immediately bounces off your website, it isn't actually wasted money.
No, not at all.
I mean, it's leaked water, sure. But it is vital data telling you exactly what you need to code or build tomorrow morning. It's really an investment in product development, just categorized under a marketing budget.
That is the exact mental shift that this whole 50% rule requires. Let's look at a concrete historical example that proves this perfectly. Let's talk about Dropbox.
Oh yeah, today everyone knows Dropbox. It's ubiquitous.
But early on, while they were still heavily developing their core file syncing product, they didn't just sit in a room coding. They actually followed the 50% rule. They tested traction channels in parallel.
What channel did they test first?
They decided to test search engine marketing, or SM. Basically, they bought ads targeting people who were already searching for file storage solutions.
Which seems like a completely logical place to start. I mean, people are literally searching for storage. You put an ad in front of them.
It makes perfect sense on paper, but the data from the cold market came back absolutely brutal. After running the test, they realized it was costing them roughly $230 to acquire a single paying customer.
Okay, and what was the actual product priced at?
It was a $99 product.
Oh, ouch. That is a massive fatal leak. You are literally losing $131 on every single transaction.
Yeah, and you cannot make that up in volume.
No, the unit economics are just completely upside down.
But look at the timing here. Because they were testing in parallel, spending 50% of their time on traction before they had finalized the product or done some massive launch, they found this out early.
Right, before they were bankrupt.
Exactly. That massive leak told them definitively that CM would never work for their business model. The CAC, the customer acquisition cost, was structurally way higher than the LTV, the lifetime value of the customer in that specific channel.
So because they hadn't blown their entire funding round on some huge post-launch marketing blitz, they actually had the runway to pivot.
They realized they needed a distribution channel with a CAC of nearly zero.
Which led to their famous referral program. I remember this. They gave you free storage space if you invited a friend, and they gave your friend free space for joining. It became this incredible viral loop.
But here is the critical part that ties back to the 50% rule. That referral program wasn't just a marketing campaign they tacked on to a finished product.
What do you mean?
It had to be deeply coded into the product itself. The sharing mechanics, the storage allocation algorithms, the user dashboard, all of that required really heavy engineering.
Oh, wow. So their marketing failure literally dictated their product development roadmap.
Precisely. If they had waited until the product was done in a vacuum to test SM, they would have launched, burned through all their cash trying to acquire customers at $230 a pop, and died.
They would have died before realizing they needed to pause everything and spend 3 months coding a referral engine.
Yep. The distribution strategy became the product. That perfectly illustrates why they have to happen simultaneously.
That's a huge light bulb moment. Let's contrast that with another example of the 50% rule in action, Marketo.
Oh, Marketo is fascinating.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, this is a massive marketing automation company. They eventually went public and were acquired by Adobe for billions. But their early days are wild because they took the rule to the extreme.
Marketo is definitely the flip side of the coin. Where Dropbox tested ads alongside their code, Marketo started running a blog and an SEO strategy before they even had a single line of code to sell.
They had literally no product.
Nothing, just an idea and a blog.
They recognized that building the audience was just as hard, if not harder, than building the software itself. So they were beta testing their ideas through content.
Right. They would write these detailed blog posts about the specific problems B2B marketers faced, which were the exact problems their hypothetical software was going to solve.
And then they just monitored what resonated with this cold audience. Like, which articles got shared, what were people complaining about in the comments, what search terms were driving the most traffic.
They were using content as a proxy for the product. And they took all that feedback, all those analytics, and integrated it directly into their early product development.
The blog literally told them what the software needed to do.
Yes. And because they spent 50% of their time over many months building this audience, capturing email addresses, establishing authority.
While they built the software.
Right, while they built it. So on launch day, they didn't experience the nightmare scenario we talked about in the hook. They didn't launch to crickets.
They launched to a warm pipeline of, 14,000 interested buyers?
14,000 interested buyers who already trusted them.
Having 14,000 people on day one is the difference between hoping people want your product and knowing you have a distribution channel ready to receive it. It turns a launch from a gamble into a calculated transaction.
The listener takeaway right here is profound. You have to test your distribution while you build. Spin up a landing page. Write the blog. Send cold traffic to a waitlist.
See what clicks, what costs too much, and what naturally catches fire. But, okay, let's play this out. Let's say a listener takes this to heart. They do the tests. They build a great product. The unit economics look okay initially. And people genuinely want the thing they made.
Okay, they build something people want.
Right. They've successfully built something people want. They're safe, right?
Yeah.
They completely avoided the founder's trap.
Well, actually, no.
Oh, come on. Not at all.
Not at all. Building something people want is a prerequisite to staying in the game, but it is definitely not a guarantee of survival. In fact, it often gives founders a really dangerous false sense of security.
How so? If people want it, shouldn't it work?
You'd think so. But the text outlines 4 specific traps. 4 structural scenarios where a product is genuinely desired by the market. The founders did build something useful, but the business still dies anyway.
Because the underlying mechanics of distribution were ignored.
Exactly, or misunderstood entirely.
Okay, let's dissect these 4 traps. Because understanding them is like having a map of a minefield. Trap number 1. You build something people want, but there is no viable business model to support the distribution.
We see this constantly, especially in the consumer app space. Think of a beautifully designed habit tracking app or, a new social network.
People genuinely love those. The reviews are always glowing. They use it every single day.
Right, but they flat out refuse to pay a subscription fee for it because they are used to getting those types of tools for free.
So the founder usually says, fine, we just won't charge the user. We'll monetize through advertising or maybe selling data.
Sure, but then they run into the cold, hard math of the internet. To make a living off display ads or basic sponsorships, you don't need thousands of users. You need millions of highly active users.
Which requires massive distribution.
Massive. And if your distribution channels, say, organic social media or word of mouth, can only bring in a slow trickle of a few hundred users a month, the traffic isn't anywhere near high enough to cover your server costs.
Let alone pay yourself a salary.
Exactly. The math simply doesn't add up. There is a strong desire for the product, but there is no real monetizable market to sustain the distribution required to reach critical mass.
Wow. Which leads perfectly into trap number 2, which is slightly different but equally fatal. Trap 2. The market is too small to reach profitability.
This one often happens when founders pick a niche that is just entirely too narrow, or when they lack the ambition to expand beyond their initial use case.
Give me an example of this.
Okay, let's say you build an incredibly robust, highly technical software solution specifically for managing the inventory of left-handed guitar shops in the Pacific Northwest.
That is extremely specific.
Extremely specific. You solve a very real pain point for those shop owners. They desperately want your software, but there are realistically maybe 50 of those shops in existence.
Total.
So even if you capture 100% of the market and they pay you $100 a month, you're making $5,000 a month. That's $60,000 a year.
Which honestly is a decent side hustle.
It's a great side hustle, but it is not a scalable business. And it certainly won't attract any outside funding to help you grow. Unless those 50 people are willing to pay you tens of thousands of dollars a year, the business just starves.
So the distribution channel worked, you reached the whole market, but the market itself was just a puddle, not an ocean.
Exactly. Trap 2 is all about market size.
Got it. Now let's move to trap number 3, and this is the one that I think sneaks up on the most experienced founders because it's purely about unit economics.
Yes, the math trap.
Right. Trap number 3. It is cost prohibitive to reach the customers. We touched on this with Dropbox, but let's really do the math on a hypothetical business here.
Let's build one right now. Let's say you invent a brilliantly simple productivity tool. It helps freelance designers organize their invoices. It's fantastic, and it costs $5 a month.
Okay, $5 a month, so that's $60 a year. Let's assume some churn, so an average customer stays for maybe 2 years. The lifetime value, the LTV of a customer is $120.
Exactly. Your absolute ceiling per user is $120. That's the maximum amount of money you will ever make from one user.
Okay.
Now, people want this tool, but they don't know it exists, so you have to go acquire them. You decide to run LinkedIn ads because that's where freelancers hang out.
Oh boy. LinkedIn ads are notoriously expensive for B2B targeting. Let's say a single click costs you $8.
And not everyone who clicks is going to buy. Let's give you a really generous conversion rate on your landing page, 2%.
So it takes 50 clicks to get one single person to sign up for your $5 a month tool.
Right. So do the math. 50 clicks multiplied by $8 a click. That is a customer acquisition cost, a CAC, of $400.
Ouch. You are spending $400 to acquire a customer who will only ever pay you $120 over their entire lifetime.
Every time you quote-unquote succeed in getting a customer, you lose $280. You are just bleeding out with every sale.
Or worse, What if the product is a bit complex? And to convince them to buy it, you discover you have to get them on a 30-minute demo call?
Oh, that's a nightmare. You have to hire an expensive direct sales force to sit on Zoom all day to sell a $5 product. The combination is just fatal.
The friction of the distribution channel is too high for the price point of the product. It literally costs you more to reach them than they will ever pay you.
Which is exactly why you see enterprise software cost $50,000 a year. It's not necessarily that the code is 10,000 times better than a $5 app.
It's that it requires a salesperson, a sales engineer, a security review, and like 6 months of meetings just to close the deal.
Right.
The price has to reflect the cost of the distribution channel.
Exactly. The distribution channel dictates the price, which dictates the product features. It is all connected.
Man, that's eye-opening. And finally, we have trap number 4, the hyper-competitive market.
This is the trap of pure noise. You built something people want, but so did 20 other heavily funded companies at the exact same time.
Like the meal delivery kit craze a few years ago, or the explosion of AI copywriting tools recently.
Right. The market is just a bloodbath because everyone is trying to acquire the same exact customer on the same exact channels, usually Facebook or Google ads.
So the auction prices for those ads are just driven straight through the roof.
Exactly. Acquiring a customer becomes simply too hard and too expensive. Not because your product is bad, but because your competitors are willing to operate at a massive loss just to drown you out.
When you lay it out like this, building the product almost seems like the easy part.
It often is.
The real puzzle is the math. Your product idea must be paired with a mathematically viable distribution strategy. It's just not enough to be a visionary inventor. You have to be a pragmatic distributor.
And if you are following the 50% rule, spending half your time on traction from day one, you will realize you are in one of these 4 traps before you run out of money.
You'll run that $400 LinkedIn ad campaign for your $5 product in month 1, realize trap number 3 is happening, and pivot your pricing or your distribution strategy while you still have runway in the bank.
Exactly. Running those traction tests in parallel acts as your early warning radar. But, this naturally leads to the next massive challenge founders face.
Like this.
Well, let's say you avoid the traps. You find a channel that works. The unit economics actually makes sense. How do we actually measure if our traction efforts are successful enough?
Right. We have to figure out what success actually looks like numerically for our specific business. Because acquiring 100 new users might be a massive company-making success for a B2B enterprise software company selling $100,000 contracts.
Oh, absolutely.
But 100 users is an absolute rounding error for a free consumer social media app. You have to set a specific numerical traction goal that significantly changes the company's trajectory.
And the authors call this concept moving the needle.
I love that phrase. Moving the needle.
It requires ruthless prioritization. It means focusing your limited time and resources only on marketing activities that result in a measurable, significant impact on your overarching strategic goal.
What usually is that goal?
It depends. It might be hitting break-even profitability. It might be reaching the specific user metrics required to raise your Series A funding round. Whatever it is, you work backwards from that exact number.
So if a marketing tactic works, meaning it generates some users, but it wouldn't actually change the trajectory of your company even if it worked perfectly,
Then it is a dangerous distraction.
Let's use Gabriel Weinberg, one of the authors, as a prime example here. He is the founder of the search engine DuckDuckGo.
Right, great example.
In the early days, he spent months working incredibly hard on an SEO strategy. He wanted to rank #1 on Google for the exact phrase, new search engine.
Which is a tough keyword.
Very tough. So he built this clever karma widget that users could embed on their own websites, which created thousands of backlinks to DuckDuckGo. It was an incredibly smart, well-executed technical marketing campaign.
And it worked. He beat the Google algorithm and hit the #1 spot. He won the SEO game.
He did. But here is the brutal catch. Ranking #1 for that specific phrase only brought in about 50 searches a day.
Which is the quintessential example of a vanity victory.
Yeah. He got traction. The channel technically worked perfectly. He could take a screenshot of Google and feel super proud.
But it didn't matter. To reach his actual traction goal at the time, to actually sustain the business and prove that a privacy-focused search engine could survive, he needed something closer to 5,000 new visitors a day.
Right. 50 visitors a day just did not move the needle.
Not even close. He spent months of his life optimizing a channel that, even at its absolute maximum theoretical limit, could only deliver 1% of what he needed.
He optimized for a puddle when he needed an ocean. And realizing what actually moves the needle requires a deep, honest understanding of where you are in the life cycle of your company.
Because a tactic that moves the needle on day one will not move the needle on day 1,000.
Exactly. To help with this, the framework breaks startup growth down into 3 distinct phases.
The 3 phases of growth are crucial because they dictate your behavior. Phase I is all about making something people want.
So this is the very beginning. Going back to our earlier analogy, your bucket is completely untested and super leaky.
It does not hold water well at all. In this phase, there is absolutely no reason to try and scale up your marketing efforts.
Pouring a fire hose of expensive paid traffic into a bucket with no bottom is just a massive waste of capital and water.
Exactly. So what is the actual day-to-day behavior in Phase I? If you aren't buying ads or launching massive PR campaigns, how are you spending that 50% of your time on traction?
You focus on doing highly unscalable things. You manually recruit your initial users.
Yes. Paul Graham, the legendary founder of the Y Combinator Startup Accelerator, is famous for telling founders in this phase, you can't wait for users to come to you. You have to go out and get them.
You just do the grunt work. You give talks at local meetups. You write highly targeted guest posts on niche forums.
You individually email people you know or reach out to people on Twitter who are complaining about the exact problem you're trying to solve. You are engaging in literal hand-to-hand combat to acquire users one by one.
It's intensely personal. You are standing right next to the bucket, watching exactly how they interact with it.
Yes, you send a tiny trickle of water into the bucket, you observe exactly where it leaks out, you talk to that specific user, you patch the product, and you repeat the process.
Your goal here isn't to get 10,000 users.
No, your goal is to get a small group of users who actually stick around because the product genuinely solves their problem.
So phase I is about finding the shape of the bucket. What happens when the bucket is finally patched? When you see that users are staying, returning, and maybe even telling a friend.
That is the transition into phase II, which they call marketing something people want. You have achieved the holy grail of startups. Product market fit.
Customers are sticking around.
Right. Now and only now is the time to start turning up the water pressure. You shift your focus from unscalable manual recruitment to scalable channels.
You fine-tune your messaging. You start experimenting with paid acquisition, content marketing, or PR.
Your goal here is to find 1 or 2 traction channels that consistently and profitably bring in new users.
The machine is built. Now you are searching for a reliable fuel source. And once you find it and optimize it, you hit phase 3.
Phase 3 is scaling your business. You have an established business model. You have a proven, profitable acquisition channel. You have a significant defensible position in the market.
So in phase 3, your entire focus is on dominating that market, driving serious profit, expanding into new verticals, and optimizing your organizational structure to handle massive scale.
Exactly. Think of it like switching gears in a manual car.
Oh, I like this.
When you are sitting at a red light in first gear, which is phase I, your only goal is to get the heavy car moving from 0 to 20 miles per hour.
Right. The tactics that get you moving, like personally emailing 50 people to try your beta app, provide immense torque but low top speed.
Yes, they are entirely different from the tactics that will get you from 60 to 100 miles per hour when you are in fifth gear, which is phase 3.
If you try to use a fifth gear tactic, like a massive national billboard campaign or a multi-million-dollar Super Bowl ad, while you're still in phase I with a leaky bucket, you will just stall the engine.
You don't have the momentum or the product stability to handle it. You just burn gas and look foolish.
And conversely, if you try to use a first gear tactic in phase 3, like if you are a $100 million company and the CEO is still trying to grow revenue by individually direct messaging people on Twitter.
You'll redline the engine and top out. You won't grow.
Exactly. Growth happens in spurts, and it requires constant shifting. A traction channel that unlocks massive growth for you today will inevitably saturate and stop working tomorrow.
This is an unavoidable law of marketing. Audiences become blind to the same ads, search algorithms change, and channels get crowded by competitors driving up the cost.
So you constantly have to evaluate your dashboard. Is the marketing effort I am spending my time on today plausibly going to hit the specific numerical goal I need for the phase I am in right now?
That is the filter for every decision. Don't just do marketing to feel busy or because another company is doing it. Do the specific math on whether the channel can actually move your needle in your current gear.
Right, but let's get uncomfortably real for a second. Let's talk about the dark nights of the soul that every founder faces.
Oh, the dreaded plateau.
Yes. What if You are doing everything right. You understand the theory. You are putting in the 50% effort on traction. You are calculating your CAC and LTV. You are trying to move the needle. You are manually recruiting
And
users.
things just aren't taking off.
Right. The growth is stagnant. The graph is totally flat. When do you look at the data and throw in the towel? And when do you grit your teeth and double down?
It is the hardest, most isolating question in entrepreneurship. And it usually comes to a head when founders run out of their own money, try to raise venture capital, and get repeatedly rejected.
They look around and wonder, how much traction is actually enough for investors to care? What is the magic number?
To understand this, we have to look at the perspective of Naval Ravikant. He's the founder of AngelList, so he has facilitated thousands of investments.
A real heavy hitter.
Definitely. And he points out that the definition of enough traction is a constantly moving target. The startup ecosystem is getting more efficient every single year.
Right. A decade ago, simply building a functional mobile app and getting 10,000 downloads might have been enough to raise $1 million.
Because just building the app was hard back then. Now, a teenager with AI tools can build an app in a weekend.
Because the tools to build and distribute have gotten exponentially cheaper and better, the bar for impressing someone with money has naturally gotten much, much higher.
Precisely. Today, an investor might demand hundreds of thousands of active users or tens of thousands of dollars in monthly recurring revenue before they even take a preliminary meeting.
That's intimidating.
It is. However, Naval highlights a universal truth that cuts through the changing environment. Sustainable, compounding growth is incredibly hard for any investor to ignore, regardless of the era.
What does that look like in practice?
Well, if you have only 100 customers, but you have been growing that base by 10% every single month for 6 straight months, that is a massive signal of true product engagement.
Even if the absolute numbers are tiny.
Even if they are tiny. Sustainable, compounding growth proves you have tapped into a real vein of demand. The trend line matters way more than the absolute number.
Okay, but what does this all mean for the listener who is stuck? Let's say their trend line is flat. They aren't growing at 10% a month. Should they pivot? Should they just scrap the code base, abandon the idea, and start over on something entirely new?
Before executing a hard pivot, founders need to recognize that they often give up way too early. The authors argue that a significant portion of long-term success hinges on simply choosing a fundamentally important market and surviving long enough until the timing is right.
Let's return to Gabriel Weinberg and DuckDuckGo for this.
Yeah, his story is the perfect example of surviving the wait.
So he founded the company and pushed its core differentiator, search privacy, a search engine that absolutely does not track you or sell your data, way back in 2009.
We have to put 2009 into context. Nobody outside of a few hardcore cypherpunks cared about online privacy in 2009.
We were all gleefully oversharing everything on Facebook, checking in on Foursquare, and trading our data for convenience without a second thought.
The market for a privacy-first search engine was microscopic. And because of that, for years, DuckDuckGo saw very steady but agonizingly slow growth. It was a total grind.
Other search startups that launched around the same time tried to take Google head-on, burned through their funding, and died.
But Gabriel kept at it. He kept his costs incredibly low, he survived, and he kept refining the product. And then, in 2013, the Edward Snowden NSA surveillance leaks happened.
Wow, the entire cultural zeitgeist shifted overnight.
Suddenly, data privacy wasn't a fringe tech concern. It was a mainstream global issue on the front page of every newspaper in the world.
Regular people suddenly wanted to know how to hide their search history.
Exactly. And because DuckDuckGo had survived and methodically refined their product for 4 years, they were perfectly positioned to catch that wave.
They didn't have to scramble to build a privacy engine in response to the news. They already had the best one on the market.
And their growth absolutely exploded. They were undeniably early to the market, but they stayed alive long enough for the market to catch up to them.
But here is the critical nuance. How did he know it was worth staying alive? How do you know you're just early to a brilliant idea and not just completely stubbornly wrong?
It's a really fine line between perseverance and delusion.
Right. So how do you do a gut check on that?
You diagnose that by looking for what the authors call bright spots.
Bright spots, what are those?
Even during those long, quiet years when DuckDuckGo was small, they had bright spots. They had tiny pockets of users, maybe privacy advocates on specific Reddit forums or Hacker News, who were absolutely rabid about the product.
They used it every day, they evangelized it, they emailed Gabriel with feature requests.
They were hyper-engaged. So if you were sitting there looking at a flat growth chart and considering a pivot, You must rigorously audit your user base. Do you have a few dedicated customers who truly love what you do?
If you do, you might be giving up too soon. You don't ignore the 10 people who love it just because you don't have a million users yet.
Right. You need to study those bright spots under a microscope. Why do they love it? What unites them? Are they a strange anomaly? Or are they the early adopters of a market that is about to wake up?
The takeaway here is to guard your true engagement with your life. Do not pivot away from it, no matter how small it is.
If even 10 people are obsessed with your leaky bucket, if they keep filling it with water despite the holes, figure out why those 10 people care.
Try to replicate them. Find where they hang out and go get 10 more. Don't just throw the whole bucket away because you haven't conquered the world in 6 months.
Exactly. Find your bright spots, understand the psychology behind them, and systematically expand them. That is how you survive the desert.
We've covered a massive amount of ground from Chapter 2 of Traction. Let's synthesize the soul of this framework. The core insight that changes everything is realizing that your product and your distribution are not two separate departments.
They are not sequential steps in a process. They are twin engines of a single, unified machine.
You simply cannot build the engine first in a dark room and figure out what kind of fuel it takes later. You have to design the engine around the specific fuel you have access to while you are building it.
By rigorously applying the 50% rule, forcing yourself to spend half your time testing marketing channels, running the unit economics, and talking to cold traffic while you write code, you ensure you are building something the market is actually willing to pay for.
And by setting hard mathematical goals that truly move the needle for your specific phase of growth, you avoid the trap of vanity metrics, like DuckDuckGo's early SEO win.
Right. And by aggressively seeking out and nurturing those bright spots of hyper-engaged users, you give yourself the conviction to survive the long haul when the broader market hasn't caught up to your vision yet.
All of this works together in harmony to completely de-risk your venture from the ground up.
It really does. And it all boils down to the ultimate mantra of this chapter, and really the driving philosophy of the entire book. Traction trumps everything.
It is the universal solvent for startup problems.
If you can prove traction, team risks disappear because top talent wants to work for a winner with momentum. Market risks disappear because you have mathematical proof of demand.
And funding risks disappear because investors don't fund ideas, they fund compounding growth. Traction solves everything. So you now know you need to spend 50% of your time on traction. You know you need to find channels that mathematically move your specific needle.
But here's the practical problem. There are dozens of marketing channels out there, from viral marketing to search engine optimization to offline events to direct sales.
How do you actually choose which one to test first without burning through all your cash and going completely crazy?
Well, next time on the deep dive, we will reveal the author's bullseye framework. It is a brilliant step-by-step system designed to help you methodically pinpoint your exact, most profitable growth engine without wasting a dime.
But before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought that extends beyond just building a startup. Consider the history of human invention.
It's pretty wild to think about.
How many world-changing, life-saving inventions, how many brilliant pieces of art or revolutionary tools are currently sitting in a digital or physical graveyard right now?
Not because they didn't work, not because they weren't brilliant.
But simply because the genius who built them believed that a great product would magically sell itself, and they refused to learn the messy, difficult mechanics of distribution.
The world doesn't reward the best product. It rewards the best product that people actually know about.
So, if a leaky bucket is inevitable for all of us, are you going to keep hiding it in the garage? Or are you ready to take it outside and turn on the hose?
Let's turn on the hose.
We'll see you next time. Imagine you have, finally cracked the code. You found an ad strategy that literally prints money.
Oh, the absolute holy grail for a founder.
Right. You're acquiring customers for just pennies on the dollar. The conversion rates are astronomical, and you are scaling way faster than you ever thought possible.
You feel invincible.
Yeah, you feel like you've fundamentally won the game of business.
Yeah.
But lurking just beneath the surface of all that success is this silent, invisible law just waiting to destroy your company.
It's terrifying because it is always there.
It is. The law basically states that over time, all marketing strategies result in shitty click-through rates. Everything goes to zero. The well will completely dry up, the tactics will fail, and if you aren't prepared, your growth will just violently flatline.
Yeah, it's a brutal reality of the market, and I think the most dangerous part is that founders usually don't see the decay happening until it's entirely too late.
Right, they just assume it's going to last forever.
Exactly. They assume their current golden goose is just going to lay eggs indefinitely. But surviving that inevitable, mathematical decline requires a massive shift in how you operate. You cannot rely on a static playbook.
You just can't.
No, you have to exist in this permanent state of scientific adaptation.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because today we are taking a deep dive into the specific mechanics of traction testing. We're pulling this from the traction testing chapter of the book Traction, and you're about to learn how to cheaply and quickly figure out which marketing channels will actually grow your business.
And maybe more importantly, you're going to learn how to rigorously optimize those channels to outrun the clock on that inevitable decay you just mentioned.
Yeah. So why does this matter so much for, well, anyone listening who's interested in business or entrepreneurship?
Well, because the alternative is what most founders actually do, which is they blindly throw darts.
Right. Just guessing.
Total guesswork. They run a few Facebook ads because they saw a competitor do it, or they sponsor a podcast because it sounds fun, and they just burn through their incredibly limited runway without ever knowing why something failed or succeeded.
Which is the worst feeling.
It's the worst. So this deep dive is about stripping away that guesswork entirely. It's a scientific framework to stop guessing and start measuring so you don't run out of cash before you find your actual audience.
I love that. So let's set up the initial problem. You sit down, you brainstorm every possible way to get customers. From offline billboards to viral marketing to SEO. You put all those ideas on a whiteboard.
It's a big whiteboard.
It's a huge whiteboard. You're staring at this massive list of, say, 19 different broad channels. Now, a founder's instinct is usually to pick the one that feels the most comfortable, right? Like, I like writing, let's do a blog, and just dump all their money into it. How do we approach this scientifically instead?
By using what the framework calls the middle ring, you have to visualize a dartboard.
Okay, a dartboard.
Yeah. And the middle ring is where the actual testing begins. You move your most promising ideas there. But what's fascinating here is that we have to be very precise about what a middle ring test actually is. The goal at this stage is absolutely not to get massive traction.
Wait, really?
Really. You are not trying to acquire your first 10,000 users or make $1 million.
Okay, let me challenge that.
Yeah.
Because if the whole point of a startup is to grow fast, why wouldn't my goal be massive traction right out of the gate? Why am I intentionally, holding myself back?
Because you do not have enough data to warrant a massive investment yet. If you take your entire budget and dump it into a channel that fundamentally does not work for your specific product,
Oh, you're just dead.
you are dead in the water.
Yeah.
A middle ring test is essentially a cheap, highly constrained experiment. It's designed to test a channel strategy, not the broad channel.
Okay, what's the difference there?
So offline ads is a broad channel, right? But putting a billboard on Highway 101 or buying a full-page ad in a local dental magazine, those are specific channel strategies.
Got it. So we are getting hyper-specific. And these tests, they have to answer 3 vital questions, right?
Exactly. The first question is, how much does it cost to acquire each customer through this specific strategy? So in marketing terms, your cost per acquisition, or CPA.
CPA?
The second question, how many customers are actually available through this strategy? Like, is the ceiling high, or is this a tiny, super niche pool of people?
Right, the volume.
And the third question is, are these the right kind of customers for you right now?
Let's camp out on that third question for a second, because right kind of customer feels a little subjective to me. How do you mathematically define the right customer during a small test?
It's a great question.
Because, I can imagine running an ad on a big meme page on Instagram. It costs me almost nothing, so my CPA is fantastic, and millions of people see it, so the volume ceiling is huge. But they're all, high school kids with zero disposable income, and I'm selling expensive enterprise software.
And that is exactly why that third question is the ultimate filter. A right customer is defined by engagement and retention. Do they actually use the product after they sign up?
Do they pull out a credit card?
Right. Do they pay you, and do they stick around?
Yeah.
Because if you acquire 10,000 users for a penny each, but their churn rate, meaning the rate at which they cancel their accounts, is 100% within the first week.
Then you've gained nothing.
Worse than nothing. Your effective cost per acquisition for a retained customer is infinite. You've acquired zero value. So the middle ring test has to be designed to track them far enough down the funnel to see if they actually care about what you're selling.
This makes me think of an analogy. I think instead of the typical startup mentality of just building a massive factory and hoping there's gold in the ground, A middle ring test is kind of like a mining company taking core samples.
Oh, that's perfect. Yes.
Right. You bring a tiny drill out to the middle of nowhere. You drill down a few hundred feet, you pull up a little tube of dirt, and you just examine it. You aren't building a billion-dollar extraction facility. Yeah.
Right. You're not laying highway.
Exactly. You're just looking to see if there are enough microscopic gold flakes in that specific tube of dirt to even justify bringing in the heavy machinery later. You are proving that the vein exists.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. You're taking a core sample. And
Right.
because it's just a core sample, the investment must be strictly capped. The framework dictates that in this phase I, this initial testing phase, you shouldn't spend more than $1,000. The test shouldn't take more than a month to execute.
See, $1,000, that feels impossibly low to get any real data.
A lot of founders feel that way.
I mean, let's say I want to test search engine marketing. And the book gives this specific example, right? Spending just $250 on Google AdWords. So I spend $250. I put up a landing page. I write a couple of quick ads. But here's the problem. For $250, I can't afford a professional copywriter.
Yep.
I can't afford a top-tier web designer. My landing page might load a little slowly. The text might be clunky. Won't the test just automatically fail because the execution isn't fully optimized? Like, am I not generating a massive false negative here?
And that right there is the single most common fear founders have. It's exactly what causes them to overspend wildly in the early days. But you have to separate strategy from tactics.
Okay, how so?
The middle ring is testing the strategy. It's asking a fundamental question. Do people searching for this specific keyword have any baseline intent to buy a product like yours?
Just raw intent.
Raw intent. If there is deep underlying demand for your solution, a slightly clunky landing page is not going to stop everyone. Some percentage of people will still click through and sign up because their pet point is just so cute.
So it's basically like speed dating.
Yeah.
You aren't trying to find the perfect marriage right now, which would be the optimization part. You're just buying a coffee to see if there's even a spark.
Exactly. Don't get bogged down in tactics right now. You're validating the strategy. If you spend your $250 and you get absolutely 0 clicks or 0 signups, changing the color of your Buy Now button from blue to green is not going to suddenly save the campaign.
Because nobody wants the product.
Right. It means you are drilling in the wrong spot entirely. The core sample has no gold. Gather the raw data, see if the math roughly works, and move on if it doesn't. But if you spend that $250 and you get, say, 10 signups, even if the cost per signup is slightly higher than you want, you found a vein.
You proved baseline demand exists. Okay, causality tells me that if we hit a vein, if we prove the soil actually has gold in it, we don't just keep taking more core samples forever. We have to actually start extracting. What happens when a middle ring test actually works?
That's when we transition to the inner ring.
The inner ring.
Yes. When a channel strategy shows real promise, you promote it. It becomes your core traction channel. And the defining rule of the inner ring is relentless, singular focus.
Meaning we drop everything else.
You drop the mediocre tests, you direct all your resources, your time, your engineering talent into wringing every single drop of value out of this one proven channel. This is the optimization phase.
So this is where we actually get to obsess over the button colors.
This is where you deploy the science of A/B testing. Split testing. And to understand how powerful this is, it's rooted in the same principles as evolutionary biology.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Think of your current landing page as an organism. It has a specific set of traits, a certain headline, an image, a layout. You want to see if a mutation can make that organism survive better in the wild.
Which means getting more signups.
Exactly. Converting more visitors into customers. So you create a control group, version A, and an experimental group, version B, and you change exactly one variable. Maybe the main headline goes from the best accounting software to save 10 hours a week on accounting.
Just one change.
Just one. Because if you change 5 things, you don't know which one caused the improvement. When a visitor clicks your ad, the server randomly routes 50% of the traffic to version A and 50% to version B.
No, wait. Let me pause you there. If I'm listening to this and I'm a founder who does not have a computer science degree,
Right?
how am I dynamically routing server traffic? Do I need to build some complex load balancer? Host 2 entirely separate websites? Because that sounds like a total nightmare.
It used to be a total nightmare. Historically, yes, you needed engineers to do this, but the modern tooling has entirely removed that barrier.
Oh, thank God.
Right. Tools like Optimizely, Visual Website Optimizer, Unbounce, they handle all those complex mechanics in the background.
Yeah.
It's actually fascinating how they work. You install a single line of JavaScript on your website.
Just copy and paste it.
Just copy and paste.
Huh.
When a user loads the page, that JavaScript executes in milliseconds. It literally rewrites the document object model, the DOM, of the web page inside the user's browser before they even see it.
So the user doesn't even know they're being redirected.
You're not being redirected at all. The URL stays exactly the same. The server sends the original version A to everyone, but the JavaScript intercepts it for half the users and actively swaps out the text on their screen in real time.
That is wild.
It means anyone with zero coding knowledge can use a visual drag-and-drop editor to change images, rewrite text, or hide sections. And the tool automatically handles the 50-50 split and tells you which one generated more signups.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. Because you're effectively running a massive randomized clinical trial on human behavior without writing a single line of code.
You are a mad scientist.
Right. But what is the actual real-world impact? Like, if I run an A/B test and I find out the new headline increases conversions by 2%, that feels kind of small. Is it really worth obsessing over a 2% bump?
That is the trap of linear thinking. You have to look at it through the lens of compounding returns. The source text actually notes this. If you make A/B testing a habit, even just one single test a week, you can improve your efficiency in a traction channel by 2 or 3 times over a year.
Walk me through the math on that compounding effect.
Yeah.
Because I want to visualize it.
Sure. Let's say your baseline conversion rate is 5%. 100 people visit, 5 people buy. If you run a test that gives you a 10% relative improvement, your new conversion rate is 5.5%.
Okay, small bump.
Small bump. But next week, you test a new image against that new 5.5% baseline, and you get another 10% improvement. Now you're at 6.05%.
Yeah.
Every successful test establishes a new, higher baseline for the next test, so the gains compound.
Wow.
Within a year, you aren't converting 5% anymore. You might be converting 15%. You just tripled your revenue without spending a single extra dollar on advertising.
So once you find your core channel, you just become obsessed. You test constantly.
Yeah.
Because a tiny percentage increase compounds massively. But let me throw a wrench in this. What happens when you run out of things to test on that page? Like, I've tested the headline, the button, the images. Eventually, the A/B tests are going to stop yielding big jumps, right? You hit diminishing returns.
You absolutely hit diminishing returns on a specific tactic. But the inner ring isn't just about A/B testing a single landing page. It also involves testing entirely new channel strategies within your core channel.
What do you mean by that?
Because you are so hyper-focused, you become an expert in that channel. And channel experts are the ones who discover brand new, untapped strategies.
Okay, give me an example of what finding a new strategy within a core channel actually looks like.
Okay, let's say your core channel is SEO, search engine optimization. You've optimized the blog posts, you A/B tested the lead magnets. You're the apex predator of writing blog posts.
Right. What else is there?
If you really understand the underlying mechanics of how Google ranks pages, you look for a new angle. What if, instead of writing articles, which is highly saturated, you build free, programmatic mini tools? Let's go back to our hypothetical B2B dental software company. Instead of writing a blog post titled How to Calculate Dental Hygienist Salaries, your engineering team builds a dynamic dental practice payroll calculator widget.
Oh, I see. You build a free software tool and host it on your site.
Exactly. People search for a calculator, they find your tool, they use it, and your call to action prompts them to buy your full software suite.
That's brilliant.
You are still operating purely within the SEO channel. You're still capturing search intent, but you discovered a fundamentally different, completely untapped strategy within that channel.
So you'd run a cheap middle ring style test to see if people use the calculator, and if they do, you pull it into the inner ring and optimize it.
Precisely. You have to wring the towel completely dry. And here is the terrifying part.
Yeah.
You have to wring it dry as fast as humanly possible because the clock is always ticking.
Which brings us back to the dramatic hook from the beginning of the show. The law of shitty click-throughs.
Andrew Chen's famous law.
Right. We found the gold vein, we built the extraction facility, we optimized the machinery, we were getting massive amounts of gold. Why does it eventually fail? Like, what is the underlying why that forces every successful marketing channel to just march towards zero?
Over time, all marketing channels become saturated. It's driven by the brutal economics of saturation and human psychology. When a strategy is new, it operates in a vacuum. It's incredibly cheap because no one else is bidding for the ad space, and it's highly effective because consumers haven't built up a defense to it yet. It bypasses their mental filters.
But capitalism abhors a vacuum. As soon as something works, the competitors smell blood in the water.
Exactly. As more competitors discover an effective strategy, the channel gets crowded. Two massive forces start working against you. The first is platform economics.
Meaning the ad costs go up.
Right, because it's an auction. Whether it's Google, Facebook, or whatever, when 10,000 companies start bidding for the exact same keywords, the cost of the inventory skyrockets. So your cost per acquisition mathematically has to go up.
And the second force.
The second force is consumer fatigue. And this is arguably more devastating.
Because consumers just learn to ignore the messaging.
Yes. The human brain is an incredibly efficient pattern recognition machine. It's designed to filter out irrelevant information. When consumers see a new ad format, their brain registers it as novel. They read it, they click it. But once they see that same ad format 100 times from 50 different companies, their brain categorizes it as noise.
They develop blindness to it.
They mentally tune it out before their conscious mind even registers what the ad is selling.
This is where we have to talk about banner ads. Because the historical data on this from the text is just jaw-dropping.
Yeah.
If you go back to 1994, the very first banner ad appeared on a website called Hotwired. It was for AT&T. Do you know what the click-through rate was on that banner ad?
It's absurd.
It was over 44%.
Mm.
The text says even upwards of 75% in some early campaigns, because it was entirely novel. Fast forward to today, and that number is practically zero. It's a fraction of a percent. We've developed literal banner blindness. Eye-tracking studies show web users physically do not look at the top or the right rail of a website anymore.
The tactic was psychologically neutralized. Another perfect case study of this life cycle is Zynga, the company that made Farmville.
Oh man, Farmville.
Right. If you look at how they built a massive gaming empire, it was entirely predicated on dominating Facebook advertising and sharing features when the platform was young and uncrowded. In the early days, Facebook's API allowed games to automatically post to a user's newsfeed.
I remember this so vividly. My entire feed was just notifications that my aunt needed digital water for her digital crops. It was inescapable.
It was inescapable, and it was virtually free customer acquisition for Zynga. But what happened? Every other developer copied them. The newsfeed became a polluted nightmare. Users got incredibly fatigued and started ignoring notifications entirely.
And then Facebook had to step in.
They changed the algorithm and shut down that API access to protect the user experience. The cost for Zynga to acquire a user skyrocketed overnight. Today, trying to replicate Zynga's exact playbook on Facebook would be impossibly expensive. The law of shitty click-throughs is absolute.
This raises an important question, though. If the law is absolute, if saturation and consumer fatigue will inevitably destroy whatever core channel I'm dominating,
Right.
how do I survive? Is it just a giant game of musical chairs?
The antidote is discovering the next untapped strategy. The moment your current strategy becomes highly optimized and profitable in the inner ring, you can't just chill. You must take a portion of your resources and immediately begin running new middle ring tests on the side to find its replacement.
You have to find the new frontier before the horde arrives.
Exactly, and that could mean finding a brand new platform in its infancy. Think about the companies that figured out TikTok influencer campaigns 3 years before the Fortune 500 brands got there. Or, and this is much more sustainable, it requires deep creativity. Using secondary, completely disconnected traction channels to feed your core channel in a unique way. Cross-pollinating.
Break that down for me. Give me the mechanics of cross-pollinating channels to bypass fatigue.
Let's say your optimized core channel is content marketing. You run a massive blog, but it's saturating. Competitors are writing the exact same articles, fighting for the exact same Google search terms. If you just keep writing more articles, you succumb to the decay. But what if you look at the outer ring of your brainstorm board and pull in offline ads?
Like billboards to promote a digital blog.
Exactly. What if you buy a massive, highly controversial billboard on a major highway, and the only thing on it is a URL pointing to a deeply researched bombshell piece of content on your blog?
Oh, wow.
You're using a completely analog legacy traction channel to jumpstart your digital content funnel. You bypass the saturated digital auction entirely.
That is brilliant. The competitors are still bidding $10 a click on Google, and you completely outflank them. So the practical takeaway for the listener here is a warning against complacency. Even if you are wildly successful today, you must constantly brainstorm and run small tests on the side to find the next untapped strategy.
Yes. But this brings up a massive operational problem.
Okay, what's the problem?
If you're running your core channel and simultaneously running weird experiments with billboards and PR stunts, how do you actually know what is working?
We need to keep score. We need telemetry.
We desperately need telemetry. The text quotes growth advisor Sean Ellis on this, and he lays down an absolute mandate. Don't start testing until your tracking and reporting system has been implemented. Do not spend a single dollar until you can measure the atomic reality of what happens next.
And we had to define what tracking actually means, because I think a lot of people just look at the raw clicks. Did we get clicks? They look at Google Analytics, see 500 people visited and think, great, I'm tracking my data. But that's useless, right?
Yeah. Totally useless. Knowing how many people walk through the front door of your store doesn't help you if you don't know what they did inside. Real tracking requires understanding the complete user journey at a microscopic level. How many prospective customers landed? What are their demographics? Where exactly did they leave the site?
Right.
The framework highlights tools like Clicky, Mixpanel, and Chartbeat for this. They allow you to do cohort analysis. You can isolate the exact group of people who clicked your Google ad on Tuesday and track that specific cohort over the next 6 months to see if they actually buy more products than the people from Wednesday's ad.
It links the initial marketing source directly to long-term revenue.
Yeah.
And that connection is the entire ballgame. Because without it, you cannot build what the framework calls the ultimate traction spreadsheet.
The holy grail of the math.
Yes. To compare channels apples and apples, you must track 4 universal metrics on this spreadsheet. Let's walk through them.
Okay, the first metric is volume. The total number of customers available through this specific strategy. Like, are there 10,000 people searching for this keyword or 10 million?
Right. What's the ceiling? The second metric is conversion rate. Of the people exposed to this strategy, what exact percentage take the desired action?
Yeah.
The third metric is the one that keeps founders awake at night. Cost per acquisition, the CPA. How much hard cash did it take to get one person to actually become a customer?
And the fourth metric is lifetime value, the LTV. Over the entire lifespan of this person remaining a customer, how much total gross profit will they generate for your business?
So what does this all mean? Let me provide an analogy. Marketing, without tracking the spreadsheet, is like driving a Wraith car with the dashboard covered up. You might be moving really fast, the engine's roaring, it feels incredible, but you have no idea if you're out of gas or about to blow the engine.
Exactly. And this spreadsheet allows you to make the most critical calculation in the framework, determining if a channel strategy can actually move the needle.
Explain that concept, moving the needle.
It means focusing on strategies that possess the mathematical capacity to have a macro-level impact on your growth. A channel might have amazing unit economics. Say your CPA is $5 and your LTV is $500. Wildly profitable.
Sounds like a massive win.
But if you look at the volume metric and the total available volume globally is only 50 customers a month, and your business requires 5,000 customers a month to survive, that channel cannot move the needle.
The ceiling is just too low.
The ceiling is concrete. You must do the math to ensure the channel ceiling is high enough to actually matter.
So the practical takeaway for the listener is to keep it strictly numerical. Remove emotion from marketing. If there's no reasonable chance a strategy can yield enough volume to move the needle within your budget, drop it immediately no matter how much you personally like it.
Swallow your pride and let the math dictate the strategy.
Which perfectly brings us to the synthesis of this entire deep dive. If we tie all these key ideas together, the middle ring tests, finding the probable, the aggressive entering A/B tests, optimizing the core, and the rigorous spreadsheet math ensuring you're moving the needle, traction testing really is the ultimate truth teller.
It absolutely is. It takes the ego and the guesswork completely out of business growth. By doing all of this, you create a system that outsmarts the law of shitty click-throughs. Growth isn't about getting lucky with a viral tweet. It is a permanent state of scientific adaptation.
A permanent state of scientific adaptation. I love that. Now that you have the scientific method to test any marketing channel, you're faced with an even bigger question.
The existential one.
Yeah. How do you figure out exactly how many customers you need in the first place, and what specific steps you absolutely must take to get there? In our next deep dive, we'll explore the critical path, the framework that will force you to ruthlessly cut away everything that doesn't matter so you can achieve your ultimate traction goal.
If you build an incredible product, will customers actually come?
Oh, that is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right. I mean, it's perhaps the most seductive idea in the entire business world, and honestly, it is the absolute biggest lie in modern entrepreneurship.
Yeah, a total myth. But people desperately want to believe it.
They really do. You hear this repeated constantly in boardrooms, incubators, everywhere. Everyone wants to believe that if your code is pristine, or, if your user interface is just beautiful, the market will just magically be a path to your door.
Which almost never happens.
Exactly. What actually happens is you spend months, maybe years, just building in secret, and then you finally launch. You're sitting there aggressively refreshing your analytics dashboard, waiting for this massive traffic spike, and what do you get?
Absolute deafening silence.
Crickets.
Yes. The quiet is brutal.
It really is. I mean, the psychological toll of that silence just cannot be overstated. It's essentially the startup equivalent of throwing the most lavish, expensive party imaginable.
Right, like renting a huge venue.
Yeah.
Exactly. You rent the venue, you buy top-tier catering,
Mhm.
hire this world-class DJ, open the doors, and then you're just standing in an empty room because you never actually figured out how to send out any invitations.
Man, that is a painful image. But that terrifying quiet is exactly why we're doing this deep dive today. We are pulling apart the specific strategies that prevent that empty room scenario.
Because there are companies that totally defy that silent launch.
Yes. Today, we're looking at a story that completely breaks the mold. We're examining a personal finance app called Mint.
Oh, the Mint story is legendary.
It really is, because before they even launched their product to the public, literally before the doors were officially open and the software was fully usable, they already had 40,000 customers.
40,000.
Right. They built a wait list that most companies would absolutely kill to have after 2 years of grinding, let alone on day zero. So the core tension we're exploring today is, how do they pull that off?
How do you manufacture that kind of rabid demand while everyone else is launching to nothing?
Exactly. And the answer is actually really reassuring, because it requires absolutely zero magic.
And zero multi-million-dollar Super Bowl ad campaigns, which is, what most people assume when they hear about a 40,000-person wait list.
Right. They assume it takes a massive budget, but it didn't. It was this highly calculated, meticulously executed, and delightfully unscalable strategy of targeting specific digital living rooms.
Digital living rooms. I love that phrasing.
Thanks. They didn't just shout into the void of the open internet. They went exactly to the places where their future customers were already hanging out.
They infiltrated those spaces.
Which brings us to the mission for this deep dive. We are unpacking the Targeting Blogs chapter from the traction framework we've been analyzing. Over the next hour or so, we are going to pull apart the exact mechanics of how companies systematically manufacture their very first massive wave of customers by leveraging the niche corners of the internet.
And this matters so much for you, the listener. Whether you're an entrepreneur, an innovation leader at a big company, or really just anyone trying to get a new idea in front of human eyes.
Right, because mastering this channel means you can generate massive initial traction without needing a massive marketing budget.
Yeah, you're about to learn how to identify, evaluate, and actually infiltrate the exact niche blogs, forums, and link-sharing communities where your future advocates are already spending their time.
It's about working smarter, and paradoxically, it's about intentionally working in a way that doesn't scale.
Yes. Getting that initial fire started requires an unscalable mindset.
So let's dig straight into that, because this is where the tension really begins for a lot of people. In tech and business in general, scale is the ultimate idol.
Oh, completely. Everything has to scale.
Right. Every process, every marketing campaign, if it can't reach 1 million people automatically, people just don't want to touch it.
But to win in this early phase, what the sources call phase 1 traction, you have to adopt a totally different philosophy. You have to embrace Paul Graham's famous advice to founders, which is literally do things that don't scale.
Which is so hard for engineers to hear.
It is deeply counterintuitive. I mean, if you write code for a living, your whole worldview is about writing logic once and having a machine execute it 10 million times with zero effort.
That's the beauty of software.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But human relationships, early trust, market adoption, those dynamics do not operate like a Python script.
No, they definitely do not.
To get those first few thousand users, you have to go out into the digital wilderness and recruit them through highly personalized, high-friction interactions. And Noah Kagan, when he took over marketing at Mint, he understood this friction perfectly,
Yeah, his mandate was massive. He was told to acquire 100,000 users in just 6 months.
which is a terrifying number when your current user base is exactly 0.
It's paralyzing. I think the natural human instinct there is to just panic and start throwing spaghetti at the wall.
Oh, for sure. You spin up a Twitter account, turn out some generic blog posts, buy some Google AdWords, and just pray something goes viral.
But Kagan didn't do that. He completely rejected the spaghetti method. Instead, he built what he called a quant-based marketing spreadsheet.
Basically, he attempted to map the entire internet, or at least the part of the internet that cared about personal finance.
Right. He brought this intense, unapologetic mathematical rigor to a process that most founders just treat as an intuitive art form.
Yeah, he didn't just sit in a room brainstorming. He built a deterministic model. He listed every single potential source for a user. Big tech blogs like TechCrunch, Mashable, community sites like Reddit, Google Ads, and a massive list of highly specific personal finance blogs.
But the brilliance wasn't the list, right? It was the hard numbers he forced himself to assign to every single row.
Exactly. Instead of just guessing, he mapped out expected traffic, click-through rates, the percentage of clicks that would convert to an email sign-up, and finally the total number of expected users from each channel.
He was basically trying to predict the future behavior of the internet inside Microsoft Excel.
He really was.
Okay, but let me push back on this a bit, because this sounds incredibly dangerous. Isn't this entire exercise just guessing disguised as math?
That is a very common reaction, yes.
I mean, if you are a brand new company and you have never been featured on a site like, say, The Simple Dollar, how on earth can you put a number in a spreadsheet claiming that blog will convert at exactly 25%? You're just making up numbers to make yourself feel in control.
And that skepticism is entirely justified. It highlights the exact trap that inexperienced marketers fall into. They look at the spreadsheet and they treat it as a crystal ball.
Like it's a guaranteed outcome.
Right. They assume the numbers are facts.
Yeah.
But the spreadsheet is not a crystal ball. It is a prioritization engine.
Prioritization engine. Okay, explain that.
You input your most educated hypotheses to see what would happen, assuming you were correct. Let's walk through the mechanics. Say you hypothesize that a specific niche blog have 50,000 monthly readers, and you guess they'll convert at 25%.
Which is a total guess.
A total guess. But the spreadsheet takes that guess and tells you that channel could yield over 12,000 users. So suddenly, that specific blog is mathematically worth your time to investigate.
Ah, I see. It dictates which cheap, low-risk experiments you should run first.
Precisely. We call these middle ring tests. You spend a tiny fraction of your budget or time to run an isolated test on that blog.
Just to validate the math.
Right. And if you run the test and it turns out the blog actually only converts at 2% instead of 25%, you don't panic.
You just update the spreadsheet.
Exactly. You put in the real-world data, the projected user yield plummets, and the model mathematically instructs you to move your resources to the next strategy on the list.
Wow, so it completely removes the emotion from your strategy.
Emotion, ego, the sunk cost fallacy, all of it. It forces you to look at the raw physics of your distribution. If a niche blog only gets 500 visitors a month, even if every single one of them signs up, which is mathematically impossible, it barely makes a dent in the goal of 100,000.
The math unemotionally tells you to look elsewhere.
Exactly.
The implication for you listening right now is profound. Before you reach out to a single blog, before you write a guest post or spend a dime on an ad, you have to build your own quant spreadsheet.
You really do.
You have to force yourself to estimate the traffic of your targets, estimate the conversion rates. You need to know what a win actually looks like mathematically. Because if you don't define the physics of your goal up front, you're just engaging in marketing theater.
Marketing theater, yes.
Yeah.
Just doing activity for the sake of feeling busy.
Exactly. So Kagan populates this massive spreadsheet for Mint, runs these initial middle ring tests, and what does the data show him?
Well, the data reveals something fascinating. It turned out that targeting small, niche, personal finance blogs was actually their highest potential, highest converting channel.
Over the massive tech blogs.
Way over them. But identifying the target was only step one. How they actually approach these niche blogs is just an absolute masterclass in human psychology.
This is where it gets really good.
Yeah.
Because they didn't do what everyone else does. They didn't blast out a generic corporate press release begging a blogger to write about their shiny new app.
No, the standard playbook is to beg for free press.
Yeah.
And they completely ignored it. They went straight for micro-sponsorships.
Noah Kagan literally scoured the internet for these highly specific personal finance bloggers. Like, these were just regular people sitting in their living rooms, writing passionately about getting out of credit card debt or, optimizing their grocery budgets.
Hobbyists.
And Kagan finds their contact info, and he sends them an email with a subject line that is just a masterpiece of persuasion.
It is brilliant.
The subject line was simply, "Can I send you $500?
I mean, imagine getting that email. To fully appreciate why that works so well, we have to contextualize the internet ecosystem back then. Though honestly, the underlying psychology is identical today.
Oh, absolutely.
Personal bloggers then and now often cultivate highly engaged, incredibly loyal readerships. Their audience trusts them implicitly because they are authentic. They share real struggles, real victories.
They possess an enormous amount of trust capital.
Exactly, trust capital. However, there's a massive disconnect in the creator economy. These bloggers usually possess very little actual financial capital.
Right, they aren't making a living off this.
Most of them write out of a deep passion for the subject, not because it pays their mortgage.
And that is the massive leverage point. When a venture-backed tech startup like Mint looks at their balance sheet, $500 is literally a rounding error.
It wouldn't even cover the catering for one of their board meetings.
Right. But to a hobbyist blogger who spends 20 hours a week writing articles for free, that $500 is a monumental event.
It's life-changing validation.
It pays for their website hosting for the next 3 years, or covers a utility bill. Or, honestly, it proves to their skeptical spouse that this late-night blogging hobby actually has real-world value.
You're hitting on the exact psychological mechanism there. By offering that $500 to place a small Mint advertisement on the blog, Mint wasn't just engaging in traditional media buying.
They weren't just calculating the CPM of a sidebar pixel.
No, they were systematically buying the blogger's enthusiastic endorsement. They were buying their goodwill and their hard-earned trust capital.
Because the blogger is so thrilled to be recognized and compensated by a real tech company, they don't just quietly put up a banner ad, right?
Exactly. They write an entire glowing, unprompted blog post about how incredible this new tool is. They tell their audience, you have to try this. And that raw, authentic enthusiasm translates directly to their readers in a way a corporate ad never could.
It is an emotional arbitrage play. You are trading a corporate rounding error for deep, unshakable human trust.
And it worked incredibly well. The sources note that this single tactic, just reaching out to under-monetized blogs with a clear financial win, drove over 10,000 pre-registrations for Mint.
10,000 users from a handful of $500 checks. That is staggering ROI.
It really is. So the tactical application for you listening is crystal clear. Stop asking influencers, newsletter writers, and niche bloggers for free favors.
Please stop. Their inboxes are overflowing with founders asking them to kindly review their product for free.
It's exhausting for them. Instead, you need to map your specific niche, find the creators who have high trust capital but low financial monetization, and offer them a clear, frictionless, mutually beneficial financial win.
You're buying their trust capital.
Yes. And the conversion rate on borrowed trust is astronomically higher than the conversion rate on any standard advertisement.
It makes total sense. Now, Mint could have stopped right there. 10,000 users before launch is a massive victory, but they layered a second, incredibly potent psychological trigger on top of this.
This brings us to the VIP velvet rope strategy.
Yes, and the massive SEO byproduct it created. Break down how this waitlist actually worked.
So, to understand this mechanism, look at the user experience of the waitlist itself. Mint created this pre-launch holding pen. You entered your email address, and you were essentially stuck in a digital line waiting for the product to be ready.
Just a standard waitlist.
Right. But Mint introduced a twist. They emailed everyone in line and presented an offer. They basically said, if you want to skip this massive line and get VIP, early access to the application right now, you can.
But there's a catch.
Always a catch.
Yeah.
All you have to do is take this specific I want Mint digital badge and embed it on your own personal blog or website.
It is such a brilliant manipulation of status. Now, let's make sure we have the right analogy for this. Because initially, when you hear that, it sounds a bit like a nightclub where the bouncer tells you, hey, you can skip the line, but only if you put on this embarrassing neon promotional t-shirt and walk up and down the street for us.
Right, which nobody would do.
Exactly. People wouldn't do that because it lowers their status. The Mint badge worked because it actually raised their status.
So what's a better analogy?
A much better analogy is the original blue check mark on Twitter. Back when it actually meant you were a verified person of interest.
Oh, yeah, that's a great comparison.
People desperately wanted to display that blue check mark on their profile because it signaled to the world that they were important, that they were insiders. Mint basically created a blue check mark for the personal finance world.
That is a much more accurate framing.
Yeah.
Early adopters, especially in tech and finance, deeply value being perceived as in the know.
They want to be the first to discover the next big thing.
Exactly. By offering this badge, Mint wasn't asking them to do embarrassing promotional work. They were handing them a status symbol. And furthermore, Mint removed all the technical friction.
How so?
They provided the exact pre-written snippet of HTML code. All a user had to do was copy and paste it into their WordPress sidebar. It took 2 seconds.
And what was the result?
Staggering. 600 different blogs, ranging from tiny personal diaries to mid-sized financial sites, ended up proudly displaying this I Want Mint badge.
600 walking billboards across the internet, all screaming that Mint was this exclusive new club you needed to join.
And those 600 badges drove another 50,000 signups.
50,000. But honestly, the sheer volume of signups isn't even the most fascinating part of the strategy for me. The real genius lies in the secondary effect.
The hidden structural advantage.
Yes, the search engine optimization byproduct.
To grasp the magnitude of this, you have to understand the fundamental architecture of Google's search algorithm.
Right, how Google actually decides who ranks number one.
At its core, Google evaluates the authority of a website based on backlinks. When website A places a link on its page pointing to website B, Google interprets that link as a vote of confidence. It's a signal of authority.
And because Mint wrote the HTML snippet for that badge, they embedded a direct hyperlink pointing straight back to mint.com within the image itself.
Exactly. So without having to hire an expensive SEO agency, and without having to spend months begging for links, Mint suddenly had 600 highly relevant organic backlinks pointing to their homepage on day one.
That is incredible.
It is. Google's algorithm looked at this web of links and naturally concluded that Mint.com must be an incredibly authoritative, important resource in the personal finance space.
It provided a massive, instantaneous structural boost.
Huge. It meant that whenever a normal consumer went to Google and searched for a generic term, like personal finance app or free budget tracker, Mint was practically guaranteed to show up at the top of the search results.
Driving perpetual free organic traffic for years to come.
Exactly. 2 birds, 1 stone.
They engineered a scenario where their own users built their SEO foundation for them. They captured the direct, immediate traffic from the readers clicking the status badge and simultaneously built unshakable algorithmic authority with Google.
This is so elegant.
It really is. So, if you are listening to this right now and building a product, the question you really have to wrestle with is, what is your version of the VIP badge?
Yes. How can you architect your launch so that your most rabid early fans are naturally incentivized to turn their own digital real estate into a billboard for your product?
You have to give them the blue check mark. You have to give them a tool that raises their status while simultaneously building your authority.
That concept of leveraging another entity's audience is actually a perfect bridge to the next major framework in our sources.
Let's get into it.
We need to shift our focus to Noah Kagan's subsequent venture, a company called AppSumo, because he took this fundamental concept of targeting blogs and evolved it into something significantly more aggressive and potent.
We call this strategy the Trojan Horse Custom Offer.
Yes. For context, AppSumo is essentially a massive daily deals website, specifically focused on software and digital goods for entrepreneurs.
Right, but back in their absolute infancy, they faced the exact same cold start problem as everyone else. They had 0 users.
Exactly. And the traditional expected move for a founder in that position is to identify a massive publication in their niche. Let's use Lifehacker as the example. Since back then, they were an absolute juggernaut in the productivity space.
Oh, for sure. Everyone read Lifehacker.
Right. So the expected move is to send them a pitch. You send an email saying, "Hey, Lifehacker editors, we just launched AppSumo. We think it's great. Will you please write a review about us?"
And we know exactly how that story ends.
The editors receive thousands of those exact emails every single week. It is the ultimate me approach to marketing.
The founder is asking the publication to expend time, energy, and audience goodwill just to do the founder a massive favor.
Exactly. But Kagan, understanding the psychology of the blogger from his time at Mint, absolutely refused to play that game.
What did he do instead?
He analyzed Lifehacker's specific audience. He asked himself, What do these exact readers desperately want, and what would make the editors of Lifehacker look like absolute heroes for providing it?
Well, the answer was pretty obvious. Lifehacker readers obsess over productivity tools, and they love getting those tools for cheap, or even better, for free.
Right. So Kagan didn't ask for a review.
Mm.
Instead, he went out into the market, leveraged whatever relationships he had, and negotiated a highly specific, curated bundle of premium productivity web applications.
He packaged the software together, made it completely free, and crucially, he branded the entire package exclusively for Lifehacker readers.
This is the Trojan horse. He approaches the editors at Lifehacker, but he completely flips the power dynamic.
He isn't a beggar asking for a favor anymore.
No, he is a benefactor bearing a gift. He essentially says, I have spent weeks negotiating this massive bundle of premium software. It is incredibly valuable. I'm giving it to you completely for free so that you can give it to your readers.
You get to look like geniuses to your audience, and all I asked is that the bundle is hosted via AppSumo.
Exactly. Lifehacker was practically forced to say yes. It was a massive, exclusive value add tailored perfectly to their specific demographic.
It is brilliant positioning, but I have to stop here and really challenge the mechanics of this.
Okay, lay it on me.
Because the risk profile here seems completely inverted compared to traditional marketing. Taking the time to negotiate complex software deals, legally package them, build a custom landing page dedicated just to Lifehacker. I mean, that requires a tremendous amount of upfront labor.
It does. It's a lot of work.
So what happens if you do all of that unscalable work? You build the custom bundle, you send the email to the editor, and they just say, no thanks, we're passing. Or worse, they never even open the email. You've just wasted weeks of your life on a single point of failure. Isn't that an unacceptable level of risk for a fragile, early-stage startup?
That fear of wasted effort is exactly what paralyzes most founders. It's what keeps them sending out generic spam emails. But this scenario is the purest embodiment of Paul Graham's do things that don't scale philosophy.
Intentionally absorbing the risk.
Yes, you are intentionally absorbing all of the risk and all of the labor up front in order to virtually guarantee the outcome. Yes, building the bundle takes 2 weeks of hard work, but consider the alternative.
Which is sending spam.
Right. If you spend those 2 weeks sending out 1,000 generic press releases, your chance of getting coverage from a major site like Lifehacker is essentially zero. It's a guaranteed failure dressed up as scalable marketing.
Wow, okay. So you are trading the illusion of safety for a much higher probability of a massive hit.
Exactly. You make the offer so overwhelmingly good, so perfectly calibrated to the selfish desires of the publication, that they feel a profound obligation to share it.
You remove all friction.
Yep. If you build a custom product that directly benefits their readers for free, your chances of getting featured skyrocket from 1% to 90%. You gladly take on that unscalable, laborious work because when the Trojan horse is accepted, it delivers an entire pre-qualified audience directly to your doorstep overnight.
The strategic takeaway here for the listener is just a fundamental rewiring of how you pitch.
Definitely.
Whenever you are trying to access someone else's audience, you must ruthlessly eliminate the word I from your vocabulary. Don't pitch your product. Pitch a custom-built solution, an exclusive discount, or a unique bundle that makes the host of that audience look like a genius for sharing it.
Your goal is to engineer a scenario where the blogger thinks, my readers will absolutely love me for giving them this.
Right. And if you can achieve that reaction, the distribution basically takes care of itself.
Which brings us to a critical operational challenge in all of this.
The execution part.
Yes. We have thoroughly discussed the psychology of what to offer these blogs and publications, but we haven't actually addressed the logistics of how you locate them in the first place.
Hunting ground tactics.
Exactly. The internet is unfathomably fast, and the most valuable, high-converting blogs for your specific niche are almost always hidden beneath the surface of mainstream search results.
Well, the instinct for most people is to just go to Google, type in best personal finance blogs, and start emailing the top 10 results.
And that is exactly what every other lazy, desperate marketer is doing. Those top 10 blogs are entirely saturated.
Their editors are exhausted.
Completely exhausted. Their advertising rates are astronomical, and their audiences are deeply cynical about promotions because they see them constantly. You have to find the hunting grounds that haven't been picked over by the masses yet.
So how do we find them? The sources outline a methodology for bypassing those saturated top-tier sites, right?
Yes. And while some of the specific tools mentioned in the older source material have evolved over time, the underlying behavioral mechanics are totally timeless.
Like what? Give us an example.
For example, The text suggests using YouTube. But the strategy isn't to look for viral videos to advertise on. It is to use YouTube as an alternative search engine to locate human influencers.
Oh, that's clever.
Right. If you search for highly specific long-tail keywords related to your product on YouTube, you will find independent creators who are consistently producing content in your space. And crucially, these video creators almost always maintain a broader digital footprint.
Like they have a dedicated blog or a Discord server or a really engaged email newsletter.
Exactly. And because you found them through a specific piece of content, your outreach is instantly warmed up.
You aren't sending a cold corporate email. You can say, hey, I loved your nuanced take on zero-based budgeting in your video last Tuesday.
Yes, it demonstrates that you're actually a participant in their ecosystem, not just a marketer scraping email addresses.
That makes a huge difference. What else? You mentioned some other tools.
The source material also references using a tool called Delicious.
Oh, wow. Delicious. That takes me back.
Right. It was a massive social bookmarking site where people publicly saved and categorized links. Now, obviously, Delicious is no longer the powerhouse it once was. But the behavior it facilitated, human curation, is more prevalent than ever today.
So how do you apply that today?
Today, you wouldn't search Delicious. You would execute the exact same strategy by hunting for curated Twitter lists focused on your niche. You'd search for highly specific niche boards on Pinterest. You'd dig into the recommendation networks on platforms like Substack.
You aren't looking for individual articles. You're hunting for the individuals who dedicate their time to curating information for others.
Exactly. It's about finding the nodes in the network.
And the text also talks about social listening tools, right? Like Clout or Follower Walk, which, again, a bit dated, but the modern equivalents are incredibly powerful.
Oh, absolutely. You can use Twitter's advanced search parameters to identify who is consistently driving the highest engagement around specific niche keywords. You're actively mapping the digital ecosystem to see where the real conversations are happening rather than just looking at static Google search rankings.
But having said all that about digital tools,
Yes, the digital tools are necessary for scale, but they actually pale in comparison to the ultimate foolproof tactic for mapping your hunting grounds.
the sources reveal a method that is so shockingly low-tech and so blindingly obvious that it is almost universally ignored by modern founders. I know exactly what you're referring to, and it is the most frustratingly simple advice in the entire book.
You literally just pick up the phone, talk to your existing potential customers, and ask them what they read.
It is stunning how often founders will do literally anything to avoid this. Like a founding team will sit in a room for 3 days, agonizing over complex SEO tools, buying expensive keyword research software, running elaborate demographic models just to try and infer what websites their target audience might theoretically visit.
Meanwhile, they could just call 5 of their actual ideal customers on the phone.
Why do you think people avoid it so much?
The reluctance usually stems from a mix of introversion and a fear of bothering people. But if you simply get a customer on the phone and ask, when you pour your coffee in the morning and open your laptop, what are the first 3 websites you check? What newsletters do you actually read instead of deleting? Which forums do you trust?
They will just tell you.
They will happily hand you the exact verified treasure map you've been trying to guess at. It completely cuts through all the algorithmic noise.
Seriously, if you do these interviews and 3 of your best, most profitable customers all happen to mention some obscure 1990s-style web forum that you have never even heard of, you better believe that ugly little forum is exactly where you need to be spending your marketing energy.
Exactly. Stop relying exclusively on Google search to define your reality. Use social listening tools to map the broad strokes, sure, but pair that data with direct human customer interviews to verify the actual lived digital ecosystem of your audience.
And that mention of obscure web forums transitions us perfectly into our final and perhaps most complex key idea today.
Ah, yes. When we discuss the framework of targeting blogs, we have to fundamentally broaden our definition of what a blog actually is in the modern era.
Right, because the real centralized power of attention today doesn't just lie with individual WordPress sites. It lies in mastering the art of infiltrating link-sharing communities and aggregator forums.
We're talking about massive digital coliseums, places like Hacker News, Reddit, Product Hunt, and highly specific industry forums.
These platforms are essentially massive aggregators of human attention, and the scale is just intoxicating. I mean, if you can successfully get your product to the top of the front page of Hacker News or a major subreddit, you can generate tens of thousands of highly qualified visitors in a matter of hours.
It is the absolute holy grail of early traction.
However, there is a massive, often fatal caveat that founders fail to understand.
A huge caveat. These communities do not operate like traditional marketing channels. They are not passive audiences waiting to be sold to.
Not at all.
They are fierce, highly defensive tribes, and they possess an aggressive, almost militant immune system against blatant corporate marketing.
Oh, absolutely. If you wander into Reddit and simply drop a link to your landing page with some salesy optimized headline, you won't just be ignored.
The community will actively turn on you. You will be downvoted into oblivion. You will be mocked relentlessly in the comments, and your domain will likely be permanently banned from the platform.
The comment sections in these communities can be absolutely brutal. They can smell a marketer from a mile away. So the obvious question is, how do you actually survive and succeed in such a hostile environment?
Well, let's analyze the Dropbox example from the source material, because they pulled off one of the greatest forum infiltrations in startup history.
Yes, this is a great case study.
In their early days, Dropbox desperately needed beta users. But they didn't go to Hacker News and post a link saying, buy our revolutionary cloud storage for $9.99 a month.
Which would have triggered the immune system immediately.
Instantly. Instead, the founder, Drew Houston, posted a video demonstrating the product. But the genius was in the execution of the video itself. It wasn't a slick, overproduced corporate commercial with high-end graphics and a professional voiceover.
Right. It was raw and authentic.
It was literally just the founder recording his screen, showing exactly how the file synchronization worked. But the true masterstroke was the script.
What did he say?
Houston intentionally wove highly specific, incredibly nerdy inside jokes and cultural references throughout the demonstration. References that only a true veteran member of the Hacker News community would recognize and appreciate.
Wow. So by including those cultural dog whistles, he wasn't just demonstrating a product. He was providing native value and signaling his own status within the tribe.
Exactly. He was proving to the immune system that he wasn't a corporate invader. He was one of them. He spoke their language.
And how did it do?
That single raw video resonated so deeply with the culture of Hacker News that it generated over 10,000 signups to their waitlist virtually overnight. It was a perfect cultural fit.
That is just wild. Now, there's another phenomenal example in the text that highlights a slightly different psychological approach to these communities, right? A company called FilePicker.io.
Yes, FilePicker. They were building a highly technical file management tool designed specifically for developers.
And developers are arguably the most cynical, marketing-averse demographic on the entire internet.
Oh, without a doubt. So FilePicker went to Hacker News, which is essentially the global headquarters for cynical developers. But they didn't ask them to sign up for a trial or buy a subscription.
Because that would have failed.
Completely. Instead, they posted a basic interactive demo of their tool, and they simply asked the community for feedback.
The psychology of asking for feedback, especially from engineers, is absolute jujitsu.
It really is. When you ask a developer to buy something, their defenses immediately go up. They start looking for reasons to say no. But when you ask an engineer to test a demo, to try and break your code, and to tell you exactly why your architecture is flawed or how it could be improved,
They literally cannot resist.
they can't. It taps into their deepest, most primal desire to problem solve, to demonstrate their own expertise, and frankly, to point out someone else's mistakes.
You are leveraging their own natural behaviors to generate engagement. Tell me why my code is bad is the ultimate irresistible bait for a developer community.
And the results for file pickers were astounding.
Yeah.
By simply asking for genuine technical feedback, their post held the #1 spot on Hacker News for 3 solid hours.
Which in the internet world, 3 hours at the top of Hacker News is an absolute eternity.
An eternity. And that single post resulted in 10,000 unique visits, over 460 concurrent users actively testing their site, and more than 500 highly qualified developer signups, all generated from one humble request to be critiqued.
So if we synthesize the lessons from Dropbox and FilePicker, the practical, undeniable takeaway is this. You cannot treat link-sharing communities as distribution channels.
No, you have to treat them as neighborhoods.
Exactly. You cannot just drive by and throw your promotional flyers on their digital lawns. You have to put in the time to become a recognized, contributing member of that community first.
You have to learn their specific dialect, understand their inside jokes, and respect their values.
And when you finally do decide to share your product, it cannot be framed as a transaction. It must be framed as a genuine request for feedback, an interactive tool they can play with, or a deeply interesting technical resource.
You must act as a peer contributing to the collective knowledge of the tribe, not as a digital door-to-door salesman trying to extract value.
Wow. Okay, this is a perfect moment to step back and just survey the entire landscape we have covered today. We have traversed a tremendous amount of strategic ground.
We really have.
We started with Noah Kagan's ruthless mathematical spreadsheets designed to bring order to the chaos of early marketing. We explored the emotional arbitrage of bribing hobbyist bloggers with life-changing $500 checks. We dissected the status mechanics of the VIP velvet rope and the massive structural SEO advantages it can inadvertently create. We analyzed the asymmetric risk of building Trojan horse software bundles to bypass the gatekeepers of major publications. And finally, we unpacked the sociology of surviving and thriving in the hostile, highly defensive environments of modern link-sharing communities.
It is a massive toolkit for early-stage growth.
But if we distill all of these disparate tactics down, if there is one clear, memorable insight that represents the absolute soul of this targeting blogs framework, what is the core mechanism that connects all of these successes?
The unifying truth behind every single one of these examples is that phase one growth, getting those vital first 10,000 users, does not come from standing on a mountaintop and broadcasting your features to the masses.
Right.
It comes from doing the unglamorous, highly targeted, unscalable work of finding the exact digital living rooms where your specific customers have already gathered. And crucially, once you locate that room, you do not kick the door down and start demanding attention. You bring the host of that room a housewarming gift they simply cannot refuse.
A housewarming gift. I love that. That completely changes the framing from extraction to contribution.
Precisely. Whether that gift takes the form of a $500 micro-sponsorship that validates a writer's entire hobby, an exclusive VIP badge that grants their readers social status, or a custom-built premium software bundle that makes an editor look like a hero, the underlying mechanics remain identical.
You are systematically borrowing trust.
Yes, borrowing trust from established niche leaders until your own product has generated enough gravity and momentum to stand on its own 2 feet.
Borrowing trust. That is the ultimate shortcut to the massive waitlist, and it is the antidote to the silent launch. So I want to leave you with a final thought, a specific question to mull over as you go back to building your own product or service. Think deeply about your absolute ideal customer. Think about that one highly specific, deeply nerdy, intensely passionate blog, forum, or community that they instinctively check every single morning while they are drinking their coffee. Now ask yourself, what exclusive value, what irresistible housewarming gift could you realistically build and offer to the host of that site tomorrow in order to borrow just a fraction of their hard-earned trust?
That is the perfect question to start with.
If you can answer that question, you have the blueprint for your first 10,000 users. But here is the paradox attraction. Once you successfully master these niche corners of the internet, you will eventually capture all the available demand. You will literally outgrow them. Your quant spreadsheet will begin to demand significantly larger numbers that niche blogs can no longer provide. And when that happens, you have to evolve. Next time, we're going to explore exactly what happens when you are forced to scale up, leave the niche communities behind, and take on the massive, unpredictable giants of traditional media in the publicity channel. Until then, keep analyzing your hunting grounds and keep diving deep.
What you just listened was the beginning of a full audio, way longer, explaining every single chapter of the book. If you would like to keep listening to the end and access to the full audio, you can access it with the link down below in the description and in the pinned comment.